I'm a gun with the Florida Gators.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I was just checking to see if you were listening.
From Cheyenne, Louisiana. Hold on a second. Hey, guys! Hey! I'm having a press conference, okay? Thank you.
Momentum, excitement, energy. They say all this stuff, and you know what they mean, but it doesn't describe what you mean. It's just sort of out there.
You got barbecue back there, and you didn't invite me. Hurt my feelings.
I was just worried about, listening to, all your guys' rap poison.
Welcome to Sideline Judgment. Here are your hosts, Sergio and Tyler.
Welcome to Sideline Judgment. My name is Sergio.
My name is Tyler.
And today, Tyler, it is the much anticipated, much aligned, I can't really think of something else to add with the word much, but very, very, very important 2023 Florida Gators Post-Mortem. We've arrived, Tyler. We are at the point now where we can take a look back at the 2023 Florida Gators season from start to finish and see where we're at. This was year 2 of the Billy Napier era. I will, you know what? I'll let you go first in terms of just general thoughts of what you thought about the year as a whole, and then we're going to go deep into how we're going to talk about this. So Tyler, first impression from now on June 11th, the year of our Lord 2024. What was the 2023 Gators season like to you?
The 2023 Florida Gator season was frustrating with glimmers of hope within it, is the way I would say it. Because I was thinking disappointing when I was saying, I was like, no, it wasn't disappointing. It was frustrating. It's not that this team, because going into this season, people did not have high expectations for Florida. They looked at the schedule, looked at the team. The team, one of the only bright spots of the team from 2022 was Anthony Richardson, top 5 pick, who was gone. And you bring in Graham Mertz, which we'll talk about later, but at the time going into the season, not an inspiring pick in any way.
We're on record for apologizing for Billy.
Oh no, I multiple times.
Billy, I should say, apologizing to Billy.
But disappointing would mean that there were expectations that just, this team just wasn't that good. It was like, we expected it. 2022 was disappointing because I thought that was an 8-win football team, and it could have been, and it just wasn't.
Correct.
It just wasn't that kind of team, and we were wrong in assuming that it would have been. This season was frustrating because this team is 5-7, and it's not so much that when people say though there's teams they could have beaten, there were actually at least 3 games on this schedule that Florida should have won.
Yep.
2 for sure, 2 that were plays away. You could argue the FSU game. It's in this weird. FSU game is that they're both playing backup quarterbacks. It was close in the swamp. So many variables.
We'll get to that game for sure.
Billy doesn't get a pass for Graham Mertz was injured in that game. You don't get a pass because Jordan Travis was injured in that game.
Correct.
So, in my opinion,
correct.
So this team was frustrating because they shouldn't have been 5-7. At the very least, they should have won the Arkansas game. And the fact that we lost to Missouri was a freaking miracle in and of itself. And
I think I think you're. It's funny. I was like, hey, what's your initial thoughts when you look back, and you were like, dude, this game and this game, which makes perfect sense because I agree with you. There were moments. I think frustrating is the right word. I was going to say underwhelming was going to be the word that I was going to choose because again, there were a lot of question marks going into the season that those question marks remained the entire season. And that's not something that I would chalk up as a positive, but it's a reality of what happened. So we're going to get to all of those individual games, Tyler. We've split this up into 3 different sections. So first, we're going to talk about the individual games. We're going to go game by game. We're going to talk about what we're going to remember from each game. We're going to talk about missed opportunities. We're going to talk about things that we did capitalize on because there are some bright spots in these games. And we're going to use that as a way to talk about what we think will happen schedule-wise next year. We might even play an abbreviated version of the schedule game, Tyler, given what we know right now. So that's the first part. That's schedule and record. Then we are going to talk about recruiting, not too in depth because this isn't like a recruiting focused podcast, but I do think it's important when we're taking inventory of the state of the program and what that 2023 season looked like. I think it's important for us to take a look at the players that are coming in, right? Obviously, a couple of highlights player-wise. We'll get to them in a bit. But we'll talk about the recruiting. And then we're going to wrap up, Tyler, with just some conversations, right? Some complaints that we had throughout the season that we'll probably talk about a little bit at the beginning with each individual game. And then we're going to end it with some praise, some things that we thought Billy did correct. And then ultimately, we will kind of decide where we are in the Billy Napier tenure and what 2023 says about what we think will happen in 2024. So let's just jump right into it, Tyler. Let's go back to the top. Let's take a look at the record. The 2023 Florida Gators finished with a record of 5-7, 3-5 in the SEC, which upon first glance, big yikes. And upon deeper dive, an even bigger yikes, because there's a lot of things in here that we need to talk about. We'll start with the Utah game, which was Thursday, August 31st. It was the first week of the year. I believe it was one of the first non.
It was like it was a week
games,
zero.
right?
It was a week zero Thursday night game. It was like one of the first games. Like
literally, like kicking it off. We were in Utah, and I think what's going to stand out the most for me of this game, Tyler, is the first play of the game, where Utah literally threw a bomb on the first play of the game, scored a touchdown, and was kind of like an omen for what was going to happen this season, right? In 2023, it was a premonition of just secondary issues and specific things that were wrong and not being focused from the beginning of games, things of that nature. I think it, you set the tone on the first play of the game. Well, we literally, I think, set the tone on the first play of the season. So 24-11 was the loss on that one. Tyler, what are you going to remember most from that Utah game?
That play for sure. Weirdly, so I do want to give, as a broader note, I do want to give the Gators defense credit. It was better than 2022. Like,
yes,
this was an improvement this year. Still a long ways to go. Weirdly, I don't look back on this loss too negatively, because everyone kind of thought Utah was going to win.
Mm-hmm.
And Florida was competitive for a large stretch of this game.
Mm-hmm.
But what I remember from it is Florida being competitive and not being able to convert, like staying in the game, but never being able to get ahead.
I think specifically that second quarter, right? There was that moment where we put together an incredible drive in the second quarter. I think we were down maybe 10-0 at the time, and just penalties, mistakes on our own front, kind of shooting ourselves in the foot. We turn a scoring opportunity for a touchdown into, I don't know if we made the field goal or missed the field goal, but definitely left points on the board. And it was a situation where, then from there it kind of rolled down. So I agree with you, Tyler, in terms of what you were saying there.
And that's actually probably one of the things I actually will remember the most now that I think back on it. The disappointment I felt with the amount of penalties that this team was getting. I was like, oh, okay. Because say what you want about the Dan Mullen era, and we have, and we will, and people continue to. We were very Gators did a lot of things well in that period. Recruiting was not one of them, but that's not the point. But penalties was an area where Florida was really good in that.
Yeah.
And I'm not looking at the numbers, so I don't want to back this up, but the feel I get from these teams is that I was hoping that this wouldn't be the case for this Utah game, and I remember being disappointed about it, was that it's not, the penalties aren't like some penalties Florida doesn't seem to get, it's not a complete, like, I guess some people would say is like, it's not like we got a bunch of thugs or something like that. And it's like, but there is sometimes a sloppiness, like, and maybe that's not the right word, but this is the sign that we got that was like, okay, you would hope that would get out of here by the end of the first year, So that's probably what I'll remember the most.
I agree. I'm looking back here at the box score, and specifically it was in the second quarter. It was a Graham Mertz fumble that it was 3rd and 12. Actually, the fumble ended up taking us further. And then Adam Mihalik, who did not finish the season as our field goal kicker, missed the 31-yard field goal. So that's what I'm going to remember most. Those are the thoughts for me there. Let's move forward, Tyler, to the next game, Saturday, September 9th, McNeese State. It was a 49-7 win. Again, at the time, we literally were like, there's nothing to talk about here.
There still isn't anything to talk about.
There still isn't. Just tune-up game. It happened. We'll move forward. Then we had Tennessee. I think this might have been, it's kind of sad, but on Saturday, September 16th, the Tennessee 29-16 win at home was the highlight of the season. Because
there's only two things I think you could argue is the highlight, and this would be one of them. And the other would be the South Carolina game, but we'll get to that. But no, this was the most. I think this was the best win of the season by far.
I agree completely. We scored 20 points in the second quarter. We scored 26 of our 29 points in the first half. We were up 26-7 at halftime. And Tennessee scored a field goal in the third and 6 points in the fourth. So really, this game was over very early. And it was really just a conversation. And it was honestly the Trevor Etienne show. He had 23 carries for 172 yards and a touchdown, including a 62-yard. I believe the touchdown run was 62 yards. Pearsall had 6 catches. Trey Wilson had 6 catches. A lot of spreading the ball around, and this kind of showed us, I think, what this offense was designed to be, right? Running the football, like Billy kind of bringing it back to what his philosophy is offensively, whether people like it or not. But in this game, it worked. And it was the first time that we kind of had this semblance of, oh, this is what it is, right? It looks good. This is the situation that we're going to be in. And then, we'll talk about what happened later. But I think that's what I'm going to remember the most from that game. The not just the environment in the swamp, because it was a night game in the swamp, and that's fun too. And we wore my absolute favorite combo, which is the blue on blue with orange helmets. Chef's kiss, pristine. But yeah, that's what I'm going to remember. Just it being this oh, finally, that was probably the most enjoyable Gator game of the season for me last year. What about you?
I think I echo that statement. It was the most complete victory for over the best team. And this thing is Florida kind of just handled it from the top. And they gave up that one long touchdown. But it was not. It was. I think at the time it was very much. Everyone thought Tennessee would win, but I believe, if I remember correctly, kind of felt that Florida had what it took, had the necessary ingredients to beat Tennessee. Yeah. It's you have the run game, you have the ability to mitigate their passing game. And that's what Austin Armstrong came in with a great game plan. This was also a game Florida couldn't throw the ball in the second half because Graham Mertz injured his throwing arm.
Yeah, that's right.
Didn't ever really even look in trouble.
But it was, I don't think it was that we shifted to the run game because Mertz was hurt. It was just always a run first game plan and mentality, which I think was interesting to see.
But regardless, it's still the fact that you can do that and have to do that and it worked out. That's amazing. That really worked out. And it was I was gonna joke this it was nice to be the ones to expose Joe Milton.
Well, Joe Milton or
mean.
Exactly. or Josh Heupel? Question mark. Anyway.
Well,
he's
beaten Alabama more recently than we have. So sorry, Hendon Hooker beat Alabama. We're just
Thank you very much for the clarification. It's funny too, looking back and now looking at the schedule, because that definitely was the highlight, because the week after we had Charlotte at home in what was supposed to be a tune-up game. And I remember that 22-7 victory was very concerning. It was one of those you won the game, but this was the real showing the cracks in the foundation moment of last season.
It was the USF game in 2022 where you're we shouldn't be driving for the win late in this game.
Right. This should have been over a while ago.
That's the thing is there's sometimes games where at a certain point in the clock, on the game clock, it's okay, there's no way this can't be disappointing. It's just the range of how disappointing it is. Now, this game did have one of the best plays of the season, which was the Ricky Pearsall catch.
Yes, it did.
Which, that's great.
Excuse me. That is a first round draft pick, Ricky Pearsall, to you, good sir.
Future Super Bowl runner-up, Ricky Pearsall. I think this is somebody who actually likes watching the 49ers play football.
I do too. It's fun to watch. I like the Shanahan offense. What can I say?
I mean, credit to him. You got to be in it. You got to be in the conversation, be in the game to not lose in the big moment. But man, it keeps losing in the big moment.
Yep. Exactly.
Anyway,
so that I guess the highlight would be the Ricky Pearsall catch, and what we'll remember is a sense of existential dread. And personally, it will be a denial, because the following week we traveled to Kentucky to play at the grocery store September 30th, and we lost 33-14. It was the first noon
it wasn't
kickoff.
even that close.
Dude, I think what I'll remember most is that Alexa and I were having like a staycation, and I remember in the morning we're getting ready, and and I have game day on while I'm waiting for her to finish getting ready in the room, and she goes, "You guys play Kentucky today?" I was like, "Yeah." She goes, "Don't you guys always lose to Kentucky?" And I said, "First of all, we don't always lose to Kentucky. Okay, we've lost the past, I think it's 3 years. Okay, but before that, we'd beaten them 31 years in a row." I was like, "Come on, relax." And she's like, "You're gonna lose today." I was like, "We're not gonna lose. We don't lose to Kentucky, all right?" And then what happened? I was sitting at a Boston themed restaurant eating clam strips with Alexa with a down face while she was like, "It's gonna be okay," and I was like, "Yeah, in theory." Is it?
This
for me,
one
for me, the line of
stings.
scrimmage is
Oh
what.
yeah,
is
no,
what
the run defense.
blown up.
Like I heard people. Trevor Sickman said this on the NFL Draft Stock Stage podcast when they were talking about running backs for this most recent draft. And they were talking about Kentucky's Ray Davis, and he's just like, they're giving him all the things. Just like, well, I will say, he's like, I want to say, you want to see the most, like, the best running back tape in the class, just put on Ray Davis in the Florida game. Like,
He's not
that
wrong.
one game is the best game of any running back in this class.
He's
Which
not
hurts.
wrong at all.
It's that's going to be at least 2 NFL players that had their best game of their career against us this particular season. We'll get to the other one.
We will. We will.
No, the line of scrimmage, this game was never competitive. And to me, the offense did struggle, but this game is on the defense. Like
this game's on the defensive line.
Yeah, there's just no
on
way
the defensive front.
Like,
yeah.
This game is on the defense.
This is the game, and this is the game, Tyler, that I came up with my take. I believe this is the game. But thinking back, I think this is the game I came up with my take of, like, I think Austin Armstrong, like, isn't the problem here. I thought it was very schematic, because there were a lot of plays in this game that were, and we will see this continuing forward. We saw this a lot in the South Carolina game. We saw this a lot in the Arkansas game. We saw this a lot in the Missouri game. Those are like plays that players were missing rather than them not being in the right position. Like, Austin Armstrong was doing a good job of coordinating the defense and putting them in the positions to make the plays. They just did not make the plays. And I think that is the indicative. And if you ever want to make the case for someone to build out their NCAA college football 25, EA Sports college football 25 dynasty, to build their program from the line of scrimmage out, this is the game to show them. Because without an offensive line that can block significantly, and without a defensive front that can actually penetrate the offensive line and get to the quarterback and stop the running backs from running, you are not going to have a successful football team. Full stop. So that's what I'm taking away from that. Like, the line of scrimmage is so important. And also, it's not Austin Armstrong. And it was like, actually, Billy made a great hire in bringing in Austin Armstrong to change after changing up the defense after a year. And it's the players that aren't in the right positions. That really solidified that mentality for me in that game. So,
yeah, I mean, I think, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask you anything else you have before we take a look at another one.
The greater Austin Armstrong conversation, we both like to hire. I still do. It is a matter, and I do still think that it is like you're catching up from poor recruiting from the Mullen era, and there's only so many. Like, for example, like, I love Jordan Castell, that was like a true freshman safety for us this year. He was great, but he's so finesse. Like, and there's a lot of, like, there wasn't power in this defense from the Mullen era, and it's because you weren't recruiting the level of people you needed, the level of recruit, the level of athlete. Like, can't teach girth, can't teach shot size. Like, and I think it's slowly getting better, but And so this season is big, and this season is big for a myriad of reasons. This upcoming season is big because I don't think Austin Armstrong was the problem. He hasn't shown yet that he's the solution.
Okay.
So I'm not being like, oh, fire him or anything like that.
No,
That's
I
absolutely
know.
not what I mean. But it is one of those things where, like, I don't think it's a problem. Currently, I don't view him as elevating these players enough yet. I think recruiting is the answer here that we're looking for. And
Yes.
I think you look at this season, I'm like, I just don't think they got the dudes.
Yeah.
Like,
No, I completely agree. And honestly, let's revisit that Armstrong point later on in the offseason.
Mhm.
I think that's a great idea for having a conversation about that. And I also don't disagree with your I don't know if he's the solution take, because we don't know.
It doesn't
It's been
mean
one
that he's
year.
a bad defensive coordinator. It's just one of those
Completely
things where,
agree.
like, it's like we brought him in. It's like he did not magically fix the problems that were happening.
Right.
They got better, and
Mhm.
I think he had a hand in that. But you can't call a Gator defense good. So,
Right.
and again, a big part of what I'm going to be talking about going forward is that, like, there is a chance for continuity upcoming, which
Mhm.
will be nice. So
Yeah.
I just want to, like, there's nuance to the Austin Armstrong conversation that I'm like, I think he was the right hire. Time will tell.
Mhm.
Because, like, I've said this about Billy Napier, and I'll wrap this bit up a little bit. I said this about Billy Napier when he had to deal with, there were several quarterback recruits, or like the Jalen Rashada situation, the Jalen Kitna situation, like
I
and
won't put Kitten on him.
no. What's the thing? The Kitna was the point where it was just like, he can't be blamed for this. I'm like, I agree, it's not his fault in any way. He
Mhm.
still has to deal with it. And that's the thing with Austin Armstrong, is like, the Austin Armstrong taking over players that don't have the necessary size and athleticism to compete in the SEC the way they need to at the higher level. Not his fault. He just took this job. He is judged on whether he can deal with that, though. So
no, completely agree. Completely agree.
Go ahead.
Let's all right, let's move forward. October 7th, we beat Vandy 38-14 in a game that I remember as being unnecessarily close in the first half. And then the Gators got it together in the second half, which you would have hoped would have been a sign for optimism. Of like, okay, cool. Still struggling. Boom. Halftime, second half, boom. Let's go. But it did not seem to end up being that way. I will say, great performance by the defense in this game. Vandy was 1 for 10 on third down and 0 for 3 on fourth. So they were 1 for 13 on potential drive-ending plays. There was the weird drive that resulted in a Vandy touchdown in the first quarter. You remember that one? That was like a holding. They got him off the field, but it was a roughing the passer. It was a weird situation that resulted in a touchdown for Vandy.
What I remember about this game genuinely is going into it being so anxious.
Yeah.
Like, I was unnecessarily anxious about this game because Florida lost to Vandy the previous year in a game they should not have lost. And you just coming off the Kentucky blowout, and you're just like, man, we gotta beat Vandy. Like,
well, it's not just coming off the Kentucky blowout. It's coming off of a stinker in the season opening game on prime time, where you're the only game on television, and you can show the national audience, hey, we're not as good as before. We threw out McNeese State. Tennessee was a great spot. Absolutely. But then concerns in a Charlotte win.
Underwhelming in Charlotte.
Underwhelming, concern-ridden Charlotte win, and then the less we talk about the Kentucky game, the better.
To be completely honest, like, this is the way you have to look at it. Because I throw out the Oregon State game because we were missing so many players. That is the worst game that this team has looked under Billy Napier, I would say. Like,
Kentucky?
That Kentucky game. Like, I don't know if there's I think that's the worst game that they've looked. And so you're coming off that. You're coming off. So
Agreed.
Yeah.
So you got that Vandy game.
Got that dub.
I personally, I love the second half, and I was hopeful going forward. And I think at times it helped in the South Carolina game, October 14th, 41-39. This was a thriller in Columbia. A road win. I remember going into that game being like, this is the biggest game of Billy Napier's tenure, and he delivered. He went in and he won on the road. Now, Did he deliver in the way that we would like for him to deliver? Absolutely not. There was a lot of errors in that game. There was a lot of chaos, but it was also, wasn't it raining in that game? Is that the game where is that the game where the fans threw stuff from the end zone? Like,
I do believe that is the game where people threw stuff from the end zone. It was not raining.
Okay.
It was a sunny day.
Okay.
And
I don't know why I thought it was raining.
No, but I was. This is like, to not talk about Billy Napier for a second. Just to be like, this was the game where it was just like, oh, Graham Mertz has got something to him. Like,
Yeah.
like this was like we've been like, oh, he's just not the problem in all these other games. He's fine. He's operating the offense. But this is a game that's just like he had to go win it. Him and his wide receivers had to go win it, and they did. And Ricky Pearsall is a first round NFL wide receiver. And I mean, it's also almost even that like you kind of don't even, because it's such a thriller. It's like it's that congratulations, you played in an ESPN Classic game kind of feel.
Yeah.
You almost like are like, I almost forgive the defense for not showing up in this game. Like
This game was just straight vibes.
I will say that's the thing. It's like the game's just vibes. I was like, I'm not really trying to like analyze this. They won a thriller, and that's because there is this situation of like this team got the stops that they needed at the end of the game. Like and there's an element of this is the small pit of this this is my favorite game of the season, but it's also my least favorite because seeing Spencer Rattler prosper on us was very hard for me.
But you'll always have that hit the year before. You'll always have that, Tyler.
But yeah, I mean, but there's also that element of like sometimes you just get into a shootout and you won the shootout, and
sometimes you just got to go bar for bar. Like, and I think this game too gave us a false sense of where this team was going to go. Right. Like you said, Graham Mertz coming out party. I think this was at the episode after this game where we said, we are sorry, Billy Napier. You were right about Graham Mertz, which he was right about Graham Mertz, as the rest of the season showed us, because he was not an issue the rest of the year. He threw for 423 yards in this game. Ricky Pearsall had 166 yards of offense in this game. Insanity. The Gators moved to 5-2 overall and 3-1 in the SEC. And it seemed like they had turned the corner. When you look back and you say, okay, the second half of the Vandy game, you look at the schedule up until this point, right? And I want everyone to kind of put themselves where they are on Sunday, October 15th, 2023. Because yes, we had the Utah loss. McNeese State, we threw out. Great win at Tennessee. Concerns in a win with Charlotte. Absolute low point of the season up to that point, Kentucky. And I agree with you. Probably the worst game that they have played under Billy Napier to that point.
Like context, like just the feel of watching that game.
Exactly. And then the next game, we thought it was going to be remember we talked about how Alabama will beat you twice. They'll beat you that week and then you'll have the hangover the next week. We thought Kentucky was giving us a hangover at the first half of Vandy, turn it on in the second half. And then we have this shootout where it seems like the offense is working. This was the game, I think, where Billy had like 3 fourth down conversion calls and went like 2 for 3 from them. A lot of excitement. And we were going, okay, we're going into the bye week, 5-2. We have Georgia, Arkansas, LSU, Missouri, FSU. And I remember distinctly saying, okay, we'll lose to Georgia. We'll beat Arkansas. We'll lose to LSU. We'll beat Missouri. And it's a toss up with FSU. At that point, you're looking at potentially 8 wins. That is an incredible improvement from year 1 to year 2. Factor in the recruiting, all these things. And we're thinking, okay, Billy's got a chance to do something special here. And the South Carolina game ends up being the last win that we had in the season. We did not have a win. I don't even want to say after Halloween, because it's like 2-3 weeks before. It's like 2 weeks before Halloween, which is an issue, right? So
the South Carolina game. The South Carolina game was Billy Napier being like, "Oh, looks like I got my swagger back," and then it goes update. He did not have his swagger back.
Yeah, no. And Georgia was the one coming in and saying, "Call an ambulance," but not for me, because they were the ones that showed up with the gun. October 28th, Georgia beats us 43-20 in a game that gave us a little bit of hope at the beginning. But again, it's the hope of every rivalry game, right? There's always a 2% chance that you can win the rivalry game, no matter what's happening with both programs. And the 2% evaporated very quickly. This game was over very quickly.
So what I would say, this game also, encapsulates the season in a lot of ways because
Okay.
You look at, like I said, you look at the Gators season, 5-7, 3-5 in the NCC. Honestly, preseason, we were hopeful on this, but it was like most people would have picked around this record for the Gators.
Yeah.
That's not what makes the season such a disappointment or whatnot. It's not the win total as much as it is how you get to that win total. And with the Georgia game, it's not the score at the end of the game. This is the score I thought it was going to be. Like, honestly, it's a little closer. You know, we scored 20 points. Like, it's how they got to that score. I remember it being the first half, so many mishaps, botched snaps, like not like I do think that Florida led at the I think we scored first, but like there was this and that got the hope up, and then just constant mistake after mistake after mistake, self-inflicted wounds. And like that's the frustrating part. If you get beat, you get beat. You know, that's fine. And but it's the only thing worse than getting beat is beating yourself. And that and while we were always I feel like we were always going to get beat, you know, it was that we were beating ourselves that just
Yeah, no, I agree. And look, there's no shame in losing to a 5-star juggernaut. It's just a harder pill to swallow when it's your biggest rival in the conference. And look, Florida was never winning the game. We didn't pick Florida to win the game. I don't think we did, at least.
No, we didn't. No, we're not that silly.
But yeah, no, I think this was the game. And again, right, the bigger the stage, the bigger the criticism. Obviously, Georgia's the biggest game of the season, especially up until this point. Like, they were defending national champions and all these things. Like, you want to beat your rival. They're right there, and you want to be able to get back to that. Florida fans want Billy Napier to work out, but the idea of Billy Napier working out includes beating Florida State and Georgia and your rivals this upcoming season in Miami and UCF. And as much as people may not want to say that, but like UCF is being approached as a rivalry game. I don't want to call it a rivalry.
It should be. I mean, it should be approached UCF is approaching it that way.
I think Florida should as well.
I think Florida should, because like you're not in a position to not at this point.
I completely agree.
Again, say what you want about Dan Mullen. One of the few things he had going for him is that he did win. He never lost to Florida State.
Yes. Correct.
He beat Georgia for the first time in several years. Like, he would throw up some clunkers here and there, but they had a win against LSU, one. But so like there were some rivalry games that he was winning. You know, you got to win the rivalry games.
You got to. And Florida being back includes beating Georgia. Sorry. Tough luck that they're the best team in the country. Tough luck that they're literally on a generational run. That's the way the cookie crumbles. You got to beat them. So I think this game was, like you said, indicative of, it was a microcosm of the issues with this team. The penalties, the self-inflicted wounds, the fumbles, the not being in the right position to make a tackle, the getting blown off the ball, all that stuff. So I'm with you there. Where it really gets frustrating is the Arkansas game on November 4th.
So
39-36 in overtime. It was a noon kickoff. At the time, I was willing to say that I was willing to say that was a hangover game. And looking back on it now, it was not a hangover game. No. It was you have issues, and we are going to put a microscope up on those issues, primarily your defensive line, because KJ Jefferson, who's going to be the starting quarterback for UCF next season, ran all over, coached by Gus Malzahn, hint of where I'm going, Tyler. It's going to be a hard game. As much as people don't want to take it seriously.
I agree. It's going to be a hard game.
I'm not yelling at you. I'm yelling. Old man yells at the cloud.
I actually got mad the other day. This
is on record June 11th, and I want everyone to take note that this is something we need to take seriously. The game's on October 5th. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm on record for I got mad the other day. I got when somebody was just like, and KJ Jefferson's at UCF now. And I was like, we have to face him again.
When I got that transfer,
how is that fair?
It's not. It is the punishment of being a Florida Gator fan in the 21st century. Oh, well, let me rephrase that. Post 2008. It is the punishment of being a Gator fan post 2008. No, yeah, I remember when they transfer portal season and stuff happening in like December, January. And my
transfer
UCF
portal
friends
news
hit
I've
me with a
heard.
text like, "Hey, is KJ Jefferson good?" And I was like, "Yeah, KJ Jefferson's fantastic. Why?" And they're like, "Oh, there's a rumor that Gus is going to bring him in, the former Arkansas quarterback." And I immediately like put my hands in my face and went, "Oh," because it meant I knew that we had to face that man again.
Getting away with this.
And it's Gus Malzahn. He's gonna run the quarterback. Oh my god. Okay, we're getting distracted.
This game. So
this is what happened. This is what this game is doing. We have PTSD, and we're talking about a game in 2024 when we should be talking about in 2023 the Arkansas game.
On top of the fact that Arkansas has never won in the swamp before this game, and we allowed that to happen.
Oh god, what a year! What a year!
This is the game. I do remember saying this on the podcast too. Mm-hmm. Like I was angry after this.
Oh, you
game.
were pissed.
This was the game that, and I'm
pretty sure you called me.
I'm holding this. I'm holding this still, and it's still the thing I have in my heart. This was the game that went from me being a Billy Napier believer to a supporter.
Mm-hmm.
Like I want him to succeed, but this game perfectly encapsulates every issue I've had with the Billy Napier tenure, and we'll see if it gets fixed. Like first of all, this game and being ended on a quarterback run by KJ Jefferson, poetic,
very
ironic,
poetic.
You could even say. But
what are you, a writer?
The main thing, and like I don't have a discourse in the black uniforms. I think that has nothing to do with this, but I don't like it. It does add fuel to the fire, admittedly. Like I don't care. Having seen them in action, and for this game that was a nooner, I was like, I just
think they could have been done better. Okay.
I agree.
This is part of last year. We can talk about this. I just think they could have been done better. They looked like a Canva version that was printed at your local t-shirt shop. The guy that prints the jerseys for your AYSL team, the youth soccer league team jerseys, which is fine. Great business. Everyone needs that. But the University of Florida should not be having some second tier design when they got the Jordan patch on them. Like one of 5 schools in the country. What are we doing here? If you're going to do black uniforms, do them nice.
I'm going to say I hope this is the last time that I have to say this, because I've said it twice already on this podcast, or this episode. Say what you will about Dan Mullen, but during his tenure, I think he nailed how the Gators should look. It's mostly classic, couple throwbacks, one maybe alternate helmet.
Yep.
Like
I'm with you. I'm with you.
I was always a proponent of the black uniforms, like that they should happen, but then because I was like, I didn't care. I think it's, but you look at it. Okay, like you said, they could have been done better. And then seeing it in action, I was like, wow, this just really didn't do it for me as much as I thought it would. Okay, I never need to see these again.
And I definitely never need to see these again, because they'll remind me of this godforsaken Arkansas game.
But like the thing is, game, you start off down 14-0. Partially because of a fumble return touchdown. It's kind of a freak play. Like these things happen.
Yeah,
you get the lead back. Graham Mertz is putting on a heater. Like Trevor Etienne is putting on a heater. Like your offense is rolling in this game. The last bit of this game, I will never be able to get rid of it from me. Like it hangs on me. The idea that you have a quarterback that nobody else wanted, and you had the right evaluation, you have stuck to your priors, took him. He is leading you down for another game-winning drive this season against an inferior team. That's not as much the point. But you have a quarterback that's capable of doing game-winning drives. Like, we don't get a lot of those in college football.
Correct.
Like, you got one. He gets down there. He goes to spike the ball, the thing you should do. And because you don't have a special teams coordinator, a player mishears and goes, oh, let's run we're going to do a substitution. Let's run the field goal unit out there. And Graham Mertz is like, what are you doing? Yelling at them, stay back. But because players have started to go on the field, you have to give the defense time. There ends up being a penalty, moves them back 5 yards. And guess what? Trey Smack missed the kick to win the game. He probably would have made it from, if you took the same kick and put it 5 yards further, he would have made it.
And this is to go into overtime. It went into overtime because of the missed field.
Yeah, but at that point, it's one of the situations where okay, so you've got it's hot. This is a nooner game, and you got to deal with. And this ended up being the case. It's so we have to go to overtime to have more carries from KJ Jefferson.
Well, that's the moment I knew we lost. When we missed the field goal to go to
But
overtime.
I agreed, and I remember coming on. I was so angry because it was like, you needed this win.
Yep.
I said, it's like,
You
we're
did.
not getting to bowl eligibility, and I was right, but I was almost wrong. But like, it's just like at this time, LSU has got the best offense in the country, one of, if not the. Missouri's Eli Drinkwitz saving his job and actually is having a good season with a functioning
10-win Missouri. 10 win
which I will say,
Missouri.
preview to what I might be talking about in the praise section.
Okay.
In the looking forward section. And FSU is undefeated.
And at the time, Jordan Travis was still
had two functioning legs. Not a fraudulent.
I didn't mean that two functioning legs joke derogatory. I literally just genuinely meant that. It came out, and I did not mean that in a derogatory way. I hope he's recovering and can walk, literally. Like, was a serious injury. I just want to emphasize that it was a genuine, but it had two legs.
But yeah, the point is, like, this is the worst team we're going to face the rest of the way. LSU, there's no chance this defense can stop. Turned out to be true. Missouri, like, it turns out to be a good team. You did almost beat them, and we'll get into that later. It's like, and Florida State at this time, thinking you were facing Jordan Travis and like a good undefeated Florida State. Yeah, they are not the level of all these other teams, but like, or at least we thought. We don't know. We'll never know. It's just like, you needed this win. This was the only thing that you could count on, and you didn't get it. And the only reason that I sit there in my mind is like, okay, you know why you didn't get it? Because of Billy Napier's decision making.
In this moment, 100% agree with you.
This loss is solely on him. And you can sit back and be like, we don't have the defensive line or the defensive recruits because of the Mullen era. We're still backtracking from that. That lost the game in overtime, KJ Jefferson. And I would hear you, except for the fact that you could have won the game with a kick from your kicker that would have been in range. That because of your decisions and the way you run your team that everyone has harped on about, that cost the game. And it's
No, I agree with you. And I want you to know that I fully agree with you. I will push back slightly and say, what is our rule about referees? What's our rule? Our rule is you cannot blame a referee. You cannot let the game be in the referee's hands at the end of it. That loss is not on the referees. It is on you for allowing the game to get there.
Yeah.
I agree with you that the reason we lost was because of Billy Napier's, call it stubbornness, call it hard-headedness, call it ignorance, call it inability to delegate, whatever phrase or word you want to use. I believe it was Billy's fault. I just don't think that one specific moment, while yes, that one specific moment was the worst, the like, that is the poster for that criticism of Billy Napier, and rightfully so. I think that the penalties during the game were an issue. I think that the inability to stop the run during the game was a bigger issue.
Yeah.
And you still have a chance to win the game in overtime. So I understand all of that. But
you're absolutely right.
I want to contextualize it completely. You know what I mean?
You have 59 minutes to make the last minute not matter. That is all true. I do also want to say, I have no problem with the referees making that call. It was a good call. In fact,
agreed.
No,
I agree.
Billy Napier, the fact of the matter is that Billy Napier cost us the game in that moment. There are a million other points where the game could have been won, but
I think multiple things can be true at the same time.
And I agree, because it's like, that's the me getting worked up, and that's what I feel because I do hate the oftentimes fans, and we're guilty of it too. I'm doing it right now. Like, you think what else would have happened.
Correct.
There's a world where that penalty never happens and Trace Mack just misses the kick anyway from 5 yards closer. Yeah. And then it's not really Billy Napier. Like, we're just talking about this, like, the inverse of the South Carolina. Well, it is the inverse of the South Carolina game.
But there's also a world, Tyler. There's also a world, Tyler, where the defensive line knows how to stop the run, and the Kentucky game is different, and the Arkansas game is different, and the Missouri game is different. You know what I mean? I think that the bigger issue holistically is a different one than the one that cost us that specific Arkansas game. Like, I agree with you that situation cost us the Arkansas game, but I feel like a lot of people take that criticism of Billy Napier, which is a fair and accurate assessment and criticism of Billy Napier. By no means am I downplaying that. But I just think that there are much bigger issues that go beyond that are more related to personnel on the field, that are more related to the way that things are operated. Again, still criticism of Billy in terms of he should have coordinators and all these things. But that moment of the miscommunication, I think, is brought up and elevated to a point because it was such a visual and such a massive example of the issues with the team. And it cost us a game, and a game that was a noon kickoff that Arkansas was struggling going into the season, into that game during the season. And it was literally, we couldn't stop KJ Jefferson, and we weren't organized. So I'm with you there.
It's just, the last thing to say, I agree with you. It's not the actual physicality of the team and the defense and the recruiting and like that. Those are way bigger issues. But this is not the first time that Billy Napier's lack of having a special teams coordinator has bitten Gator. This is the biggest time. This is a time where that specifically bit them in the ass. But this isn't the first that, like, we had been saying this. Yeah. And then that happened. And you're like, wow, look at that. So I just wanted to, so I
Fair
got
to say
so
the
I'm
low
so
point of the
angry.
season?
I'm so angry at this game.
Well,
and
I
it's funny
think
because I'm actually, I was like, there's so much to like. I think Grammert's had some of the best throws that he's had in a Gator uniform in this game. Like, this is one of his touchdowns to Trey Wilson. Like, that was like, those are NFL throws. And Trevor Etienne, RIP, he's not dead. He's just not on this team anymore.
Dead to me. I'm kidding. I don't like when people say that. I like wishing death on people.
There was somebody on Twitter.
Fan wise.
There was a fanatic on Twitter who said that the first thing they do when they get EA college football is going on Georgia's roster and putting in Jalen and Rashada, and she's like, I'm gonna make him break his leg, and I'm like, you're
engage
terrible.
8 every play.
Like, that's terrible. Now I understand there's a little bit of like, I understand the getting your catharsis out.
Right. It's like when people lose. It's like when people in real life lose their team loses a game and they fire up whatever.
I have 100% done that.
Oh, I've done it too. Don't worry. That's funny, man. Low point of the season. We can agree
by far.
I watched.
Real testament considering what happened to our defense in the next game.
Well, so here's the reason why I fully, for me, it's a low point. I was in Virginia with my mom, Raul and Diego, visiting them for this weekend. I think I'm going to try to do, like, every year, go up and watch some college football with my mom, Raul and Diego, because it's something we do together. We love it. But it was the last Red River. I'm sorry. It was the last.
Red River was the Big 12.
No, not Red River. It was the last. Bedlam. Thank you. Jeez, I don't know why.
Yeah, how'd that go?
Did not go well for us. And then also FAU was up like 35-14 or 35-7 against UAB at halftime, and then lost the game. So we just had a horrible day of.
We talked about this. It's like one of the worst.
I flew up there. I flew up there to spend time with my family and share in some college football watching, and we end up all losing in horrific, dramatic fashion. It was so bad that whatever the night game was, we were gonna watch together. We missed like the first quarter or something of it because we all went out for ice cream. We were like, we just need to feel better. Let's go get some ice cream. So it was great. It was a great time spent with my family, but that is my low point of the football season. A high point of my year for spending time.
I remember this. The Jaguars had a bye week this week, and then the next week we lost to the 49ers 34-3. So like terrible time for both of us.
I remember that the Dolphins were on a bye the following week, because on November 11th was the LSU game. I was in New York City with Alexa, spending some quality time with my lady. And we had a great weekend, saw some great theater. I saw Sweeney Todd. I saw Josh Groban and Annalise Ashford and Sweeney Todd. Fantastic. And I purposely did not watch this game. I went back and watched, the extended highlights and the 30-minute YouTube video. It gives me every play in a half hour. But I don't remember anything from this game because I just literally blocked it out because I was not doing anything. I remember Alexa was like, you sure you don't want to pop in and watch the game? And I was like, honestly, because it was the week after Arkansas, I was like, I think I need a mental break from the Gators. I was like, this is doing a lot for me right now. So I purposely did not watch the game live. So
I remember I was on my way for when this game happened. I started watching it, and I listened to it because I was driving to go to the Alamo Draft House to go see David Fincher's The Killer which was a Netflix movie. But
Yes.
here in LA, it could be seen. I was going to see it with my good friends Maxwell Constable and Lucas Valderrama because we all worked on it for a few days.
I'm sorry. His name is Maxwell Constable?
Yes.
Like his real government, God-given, parent-given name is Maxwell Constable?
I can't believe I'm airing this out on his actual government name is Maxwell Allen, but he is changing his last name to Maxwell Constable. So when I met him, he went by Max Allen. But since it's a good friend of mine, he's now going by. He wants I want to start going by Maxwell. So he's like, I want to go by a different last name. It's a different family last name of his. Constable. When he first told me that, I was just like, I don't know what to think here, but like I'm alternating between what and that's sick.
So this
is a real person.
That's what LA is now, right? Like, just a mix between what and sick. Hey, your sports are on earlier.
That's what it feels like to me sometimes. I'm like, what? And also,
at least you got that Arkansas game out of the way by noon. It started at 9, so you were good.
Oh yeah,
that's the whole day.
So this is the funny thing about watching football on the West Coast. It's if you win, it's great because there's still time to do stuff. Like winning a 9 a.m. game, it's noon. You won. You're great. You got the rest of the day. Even night games I'm like, okay, it's over. It's 8 o'clock. I still can do something tonight. Losing is infinitely worse, especially for a 9 a.m. game, because your whole day's ruined. You sit there and I'm like, oh, it's like the one nice thing about the East Coast is that when your team loses, typically you're like, okay, well, this day doesn't have too much in it. Even if it started at noon, it's done by 3 or 4 o'clock. You're like, okay, I have to get through this afternoon or this evening, but then I get to go to sleep and kind of leave this
right. We can start over tomorrow.
No, you don't get to do that out here.
RIP the Pac-12. Anyway, what do you have?
That one is actually dead.
That one is actually dead. Yes, correct. Both of those legs are not working. What is your memory from LSU? Because, like I said, I remember watching it and just being frustrated because I saw the highlights. But what do you remember from the LSU game? What are you going to remember? I should say.
Okay.
Will it be the killer?
I will get
David Fincher's the killer.
Yeah. It was fun to work on.
Great film.
My boy Lucas Valderrama, who I met on this, he was the art department PA, and there's a shot in the movie of a security camera up on the ceiling. It was the one that he had picked out.
Nice.
So we were all like, and I got to live in this beautiful silence where my phone was already in airplane mode, and I didn't get to know that Jaden Daniels won the Heisman that night against us, which is what I'm going to remember the most. Quick note. Slight positive from this game. You did score 35 points. I mean, LSU's defense is bad, but 35 points is good. The offense was had some gas to it. I feel like that both the games against LSU have been shootouts in the Billy Napier tenure. I do feel like Billy Napier brings his game in calling the offense to the LSU games.
He's a Louisiana guy, or he's a Georgia guy, but Louis cut his teeth in Louisiana, knows the area. Definitely some people who may be like, oh, that's, I call him Blue Chip Billy because he's got the track record for Blue Chip Billy, as much as people don't want to acknowledge that. He does have the track record. But there's a lot of, Sunbelt Billy in a very derogatory way. And I think a lot of people in Louisiana think that way. So maybe he's got a little, chip on his shoulder when he plays them Tigers. So,
yeah, but the issues we've been having with the defense this whole season to our conversation, even more here.
Yeah, definitely.
I will say, just a nice little point of order. LSU Florida is always an elite uniform game,
especially when we wear the all blues.
Oh yeah. Oh,
that's my favorite uniform.
Always an elite uniform game.
It needs to be yellow LSU helmet, white shirt, purple pants, and then the all blue uniforms and the orange helmets for the Gators. That's just
so good.
Chef's kiss. All right, let's move forward. At Missouri, a 33-31 loss that was just absolutely brutal. A brutal loss, because that would have given us bowl eligibility. And while a program, the Statue of Florida, should not be fighting and clawing and climbing to get bowl eligibility, given what we had seen this entire season, we kind of knew that this team wasn't up to what it should be. And if we would have made a bowl, that would have been great. Honestly, I wanted to make a bowl for the practices. I just wanted them to get more reps.
You're not going to run 100%. And the things like the bowl practices for the first year, you're not going to run at the position of okay, but we only can practice a quarterback who's not gonna play for us next year. Like that was the
Right.
situation with last year's bowl practices, is that Richardson was sitting out for the draft. Kitten is gone for good reasons. And then so you have Jack Miller, who's, the size of my thumb, and no disrespect, but but you're trying out a quarterback that will not be wasn't on your team, but it's like, this guy will not be our starter next year. So how useful is that?
Yeah. Well, but
it would have been useful this year.
Exactly. So, Tyler, what do you remember about the Missouri game?
Oh, I actually remember this deeply because I was on a cruise for a bachelor party during this game, and we were spending the night at the casino. I go upstairs to get a drink near the sports bar. I see the recap is playing for this game because I haven't been able to watch it. I don't have any internet.
That's right.
And I was like, we went to the sports bar to watch the Jags game the next day, but I'm the only Florida fan of these 5 guys, so I'm not gonna.
Yeah, you're not gonna go off. Yeah.
And by the way, side note: if anybody ever goes to a bachelorette party, please put your ego aside. It is never about you. It is all you should be focused on is about the person who's going themselves. That
agreed.
So it's what I want in this moment literally could not matter less. But I had a moment. I was like, I'll watch the highlights, and I watched everything that happened in this game in the span of about a 3-minute ESPN cut up.
That's insane.
The range of emotions,
dude. This game was
the
wild.
City would be like, oh hey, we're actually playing good. Are we gonna win? And I'm sitting there, I don't know the score, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, are we gonna freaking win? It's like Graham Mertz is injured, and I was like, but this new guy, I saw his best plays. I'm like, Max, this is like, are we gonna do this? Are we gonna get to bowl eligibility?
And he got injured running over someone. He got injured in the most badass way too.
I will say it's I remember watching a Graham Mertz highlight cut up video from his Gator uniform, and that's the last play is him running over somebody, and I can't help but be like, yeah, that is a highlight. It's also a huge low light because you win the next game if you have Graham Mertz, in my opinion. But,
I agree.
But I'm sitting there, I'm like, I don't know, and I have no way of knowing how serious the Graham Mertz injury is long term. But and then I watch us lose it.
For me, it was
minutes. So that was, and I was a little feeling it in a lot of ways in that moment, but still with it, and that's the worst.
We took the lead with 1:36 left in the game. And Harrison Mevis, who, by the way, remember that kicker had that 60-yarder or something against Kansas State in week 2. So we knew he had a leg. He hit a 30-yarder with 5 seconds left. And it was just, again, defense not being able to stop and not being able to get stops when it counts. I believe there was a bad penalty on that drive as well. And it was just a microcosm of what was happening in the season. That was tough, man. That was brutal. Would have been they were number 9 in the country at the time. Would have been a big road win.
Huge.
We could have at least pointed back and been like, okay, yeah, the Arkansas loss, horrendous. The Kentucky loss, horrendous.
But you would have made up for it here.
But you won 1 possession games on the road against South Carolina and Missouri, and a top 10 Missouri at that. It would have been something to build off of, and it would have given us bowl eligibility. But nonetheless, it did not happen.
So what if?
And then we have Florida State at home, 24-15, backup quarterbacks galore. Honestly, that was a game where we were in it. We were winning the game. Tensions rose. It was a little bit of a throwback in terms of rivalry wise, where there were some moments there where it was like, are these guys gonna fight? Are helmets gonna come off and are hands gonna start throwing? I really thought there were some moments.
Think about it.
There was the hit that Florida State fans and staff and Norvell specifically, who came out 15 yards onto the field, got mad when the backup quarterback, he was starting to slide, and it was a late hit. It was definitely a flag. And I remember, I forget who it was, but it was one of those what are you doing plays? One of the many what are you doing penalties of the season. So just a lot going on there. 5-7. 3-5 in the SEC.
This game specifically, I also remember where I was for this because I was visiting. It was around Thanksgiving. I was visiting my girlfriend's family in Santa Fe, New Mexico. We've
Yes.
started this tradition that I am going to need to amend in one small way. But we think the tradition we might be going is like, oh, we'll spend Thanksgiving with one family and Christmas with another, and then we switch it the next year.
That's a good idea.
I didn't pick the greatest way to do this because if we don't change that, if we don't flip-flop it, I will be in Santa Fe, New Mexico every time Florida State comes to the Swamp. And I don't really know if I want to do that. So I might have to take 2 seasons of being in Santa Fe at Thanksgiving.
Just to reset the
get
balance.
What I need.
Just to get listen, it's a one-time for the switch around for the rest of your life. I really believe it's the way. I agree.
And we're bad now too. So it's a time to do it.
Exactly. I agree.
But I remember like having it, watching it before we went out to dinner. And watched it on my phone, and it was close for most of the game. So I'm sitting there but it's like, but you have it's close for most of the game. You have no really understanding of if their offense will be good. You don't have any faith in your own to score points. So you're just kind of sitting there waiting for the dam to break in one way or the other. And I watch it, and we get to dinner, and they're like, you can watch it on your phone. I'm like, I don't know about you guys. That seems so disrespectful for the five of us to be here, and I'm the only one watching this on my phone
at dinner. Yeah,
I was just like,
one thing like driving to dinner in the car. No.
I was like, they were being so sincere, and I loved it. I was like, you guys are really nice for doing this because I know I'm the only person here who cares about football. But I'm not going to make you do that.
Yeah,
especially for my bad team,
of course. No, and listen, we love sports, we love college football, we love the Gators. There are bigger things in life than that. So
this is why I'm actually I know we all joke about it. I'm not anti-fall wedding because it's worth it. Now you have to consider if you're gonna have if I'm gonna have a fall wedding, because then my anniversary is gonna fall on a college football weekend for the rest of my life. That's something. But going to a friend's fall wedding, I do it 100 times out of 100 because it's like you can give up one Saturday of college football to see a happy moment.
I decline to comment.
I'll stand on business here. I'll make myself unlikable to the masses.
I decline to comment on that.
When Alexa eventually makes you do a fall wedding to get that Boston fall aesthetic, and I show up and no one else does, you're gonna feel happy.
And
then.
No one else. wedding party of 3. The bride groom.
You're gonna decline to comment then.
Listen, I have 2, maybe 3 weddings I'm going to in October alone. So yeah, exactly.
I will say one last little bit that I do remember about this game. And I'm pretty sure Ricky Pearsall was 12 yards away from a 1,000-yard season.
Oh my God.
Didn't get it.
That's tough, dude. That's tough.
Would have gotten it with Graham Mertz.
Would have gotten it with a bowl. Anyway. Let's move forward. That was the season. I know that took an hour, but that was the big.
It took a lot more off my life, buddy.
It took. Listen,
an hour is trivial.
That was the biggest chunk. So let's talk recruiting quickly. There's not much to talk because we're not recruiting guys, and obviously with the transfer portal, things can change or whatever. But I think it's important to note that the Gators finished 10th nationally in the 2024 recruiting classes. 7th in the SEC, which is one that's including Texas and Oklahoma, which we need to start including from now on. Which I think just shows the talent. How do I put this? Shows the reputation of the conference, that the best players in the country want to go there. But it also makes it that much more difficult because yes, we have the 10th best recruiting class nationally. But it's not even. It is literally middle of the pack in our conference. Literally, the teams that finished above Florida.
So it's you have middle of the pack talent in your own conference, and you're not even necessarily. Maybe they will, but so far you haven't been maximizing it.
Correct. The teams above Florida were number 9 Oklahoma, number 8 Auburn, number 7 LSU, number 6 Texas, number 2 Alabama, and number 1. Georgia. So
genuine question: who are 3, 4, and 5?
3
obviously
was
Ohio State is 3, probably.
3 was Ohio State. 4, do you have a guess? I have them. I remember them.
4 is gonna be Oregon.
They are all current Big Ten SEC schools. Current.
So Oregon is one of the two, right?
Oregon is 4.
Is Washington 5?
No.
No, why would that? No, they just lost a coach.
Penn State.
That makes sense, actually. Penn State
Penn
recruits
State.
and doesn't
Penn
do
State
anything
was
with
5.
it.
Yeah. It doesn't do anything with it. I saw. I caught that at the end. I caught
threw that in there.
Yeah. And then key signings for us, obviously, the highly touted DJ Lagway, the beloved savior of the program, as some people are anointing him a little too
Remember
early.
when we said that about Felipe Franks?
I
just put it out there.
Will refuse to comment. I will refuse to comment on that.
All I'm saying is it's early.
You're throwing Felipe Franks and fall weddings at me. Two things that I just can't comment on.
It is unequivocally a good. Like, I'll let you finish the other key signings. It's unequivocally a good thing that we got all these players, no matter what other bits and snark I throw your way. It's a good thing. Like,
absolutely.
I'm just being nitpicky.
Yeah. DJ Lagway, obviously consensus 5-star, Gatorade National High School Player of the Year. You may have seen him on the latest Gatorade commercial, which listen, hey, Billy's activating and mobilizing the Gatorade stuff. All right, buddy. That is a point for me. It's a point for me. Absolutely.
People out here in LA don't even know that that's where Gatorade comes from.
No.
I'm educating everyone.
Thank you. Doing the Lord's work over there.
Oh, yeah, by the way, when I start working on Redacted 8,
okay.
I think in a few weeks, I know that whenever it's like hot, they typically have the like canned Gatorade at Crafty.
Oh,
like the classic
cans.
So
dude, I'm gonna be spreading
the good word.
Dude, I have not seen the canned Gatorade in forever.
Get out here to LA. I'll get you one.
Listen, I will definitely have to make it out to LA. I would definitely take up your offer of a Gatorade when I get there. But I gotta find them here. That's a good point.
Right. Back to the recruiting. DJ recruiting consensus 5-star Gatorade National Player, High School Player of the Year.
Correct. Defensive lineman LJ McCray was another 5-star, another big get. And then I put here linebacker Miles Graham, a 4-star. I put him here because he's a Gainesville native, and I think that it's very important that we, as Florida fans, any big time,
you can't lose the Gainesville, like
Orlando, Tampa, Jacksonville, Fort Lauderdale, Miami. Those major cities in the state are too big to be like, we have to hold it down, especially with Florida State, Miami.
There's too
UCF.
much talent in the state of Florida to go to one school. Like,
exactly.
You can't,
and you got the big boy, other big boys. You got your Ohio States, your Georgias, your Alabamas.
It's like every time the draft comes around, I learn about all these players, these amazing athletes that go to like small schools, and I'm like, oh, he's originally from Florida.
Yeah, and it makes sense.
Offers, so he went here and became a monster.
And it checks out, and now he's like a second rounder. Yeah, it checks completely out.
It's just too much talent in the state.
But Gainesville itself, Alachua County, you got to win that.
You can't.
That's like if Florida went into Tallahassee and got a 4 or 5-star out of Tallahassee. It's like, come on, FSU, you got to win those. Miami's different because it's a bigger city and all those things. Many people, blah blah blah. But just wanted to emphasize that's a good get. I think that the recruiting has definitely gone up. And if you go by, by the way, all these rankings were from On3 Sports. I want to emphasize On3 has the reason I said consensus 5-star for Lagway is because On3 lists the 4 major recruiting services: 247, Rivals, On3, and ESPN. They list all 4, and he was a 5-star on all 4 of those. And so they have what they call like an aggregate score based on all the other services, and so that's where I go off of. That's why I use them. The Gators finished 13th in 2023 and 19th in 2022. 19th was Billy's first season. It was his transition class. That's why I mentioned those.
Transition class are typically tough.
Yeah, typically
weirdly, it was the best. Dan Mullen's best recruiting class was his transition class. I think that makes sense for his particular situation.
Yeah,
he had the 11th rank. Yeah, because it's like, oh, you've already got McElwain was a better recruiter. You've got a good class, and then you've got a guy who like they knows Florida and offense, like
not just knows Florida and offense, but like is a literal.
Like you can sell people on that. And
but he's a literal football genius. Like he is the brightest, one of the brightest offensive minds in the country, even though he's not working in football right now, or whatever.
But the 13th class in 2023 and now the 10th ranked class
I'd be interested to see where we go next season.
Trending.
And again, this coming season, the 2024 football season, is going to play a big role. It's going to play a big role. I want to, Tyler, wrap it up with some couple quick conversations. We've listed out some complaints and some praises for Billy Napier. We'll start with the complaints because, we want to start there. We wrote down here game management decisions in the Arkansas game specifically. I think
we covered this. I don't need to get into it again. I don't think my heart can take it.
No, dude, no, or my brain. Like it's whatever. We also mentioned the fact that Billy Napier has not hired an offensive coordinator, special teams coordinator. Let me be the first to say this, Tyler, because I have been the one to pound the pavement on Billy Napier, and the whole season I said I agree he needs both, and I am almost positive he'll hire both. We sit here June 11th, the year of our Lord 2024. He has not hired them. He has brought other people in, and they have been able to do some work and have been able to help out with the team, but he has not specifically hired an offensive coordinator or a special teams coordinator, and that to me is a concern. I personally, you guys know me, I'm a big Billy believer. I really, truly believe that he's the one to turn the program around. But this was the first time, and some people are going to make fun of me like the first time, but yes, this was the first time that I truly was able to, because I try to take off my Billy Napier supporter hat when I do analysis, and I hope I do a good job of that. I hope that comes across that way, listeners. But seriously, this is the first I was like, Billy, what are you doing? Like truly, like, what are you doing? You need specifically a special teams coordinator. Because the Arkansas issue doesn't happen with the special teams coordinator because the special teams coordinator is the one that's calling for the field goal.
Yeah.
Like
so.
I just wanted to be on record first to say that, like, yes,
I appreciate you saying that. I appreciate you saying that a lot, because this is the thing that I said. I said this on record so many times. I said, if Billy doesn't hire an offensive coordinator or special teams coordinator in the offseason, then I'm out. So what I mean by that, and what I'm going to phrase it now, because as we kept going away from the season, it's one of those things where like the hurt is so recent and the fact that it hasn't been remedied is so hurtful. And then you get further away and you're like, okay, I mean, to be clear about my feelings about it, offense, scoring points has not really been this team's issue. I think that you've got, for the first time, this will go into one of the praises we have, for the first time in his tenure, you've got some returning quarterback production. You've got your core of guys is staying the same on offense. You're adding pieces, which is a good thing. You lost Ricky Pearsall, which is great. But Ricky Pearsall turned into the greatness that he was. He was good, but he turned into amazing. That does speak. You have Billy Gonzalez as the wide receivers coach. Like Trey Wilson looked like a star as a freshman.
A breakout star.
Take that number one role.
Very good season.
You got Graham Mertz, who improved significantly coming in, and you have continuity. I remember at Louisiana, he had Levi Lewis for like 3 years. So that might be part of it. Like, it's not that he can't call offense, because we score points. Unfortunately, like, and it may not be everybody's favorite designed offense, and sometimes the plays are a little weird, but like, I don't think it's the best designed offense in the world, but like this team scores points. They score points under Billy Napier. Maybe not always in the right moments, but they score points. Getting the offense coordinator was about taking something off of his plate.
Correct.
Now I cared more about the special teams coordinator, because the reality is that, like, if you give up not hiring an offensive coordinator, okay. I mean, it's not like McElwain never fixing his offense. Like, this guy scores points. So like, it's not the end of the world. I want to mitigate the game management decisions, those kind of things. And the special teams coordinator was the bigger part of that. Cause like, I don't need you making that decision. I need somebody else making that decision. And not making that hire is huge. I think this is the biggest moment in Billy Napier's career, this offseason right here, because these decisions, and one of them, it was a good decision. We'll get to it in a second. These decisions are going to affect this season, which is going to either save or fail his job. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
And again, it's not about the offense isn't good enough. It's about taking things off your plate. So
because I would argue that and to your point, even I know we had those playmakers and stuff, but to your point, I think the offense is good. I think
the thing I'm
good
most excited
offense.
about this season.
Yeah,
I'm honest.
That's great.
This is gonna sound the same. I'm trying to see if Graham Mertz can take that Kyle Trask lead. Like, because Kyle Trask that's a lot to ask. Kyle Trask,
and I also want to. I love Billy, but I will never say that Billy is a better football offensive mind than Dan Mullen. And Dan Mullen was able to, or quarterback coach, right? I think Dan Mullen is the best offensive mind and best quarterbacks developer in the country. So for me, it's like, no, he's not going to be better at that specific thing. So to say Kyle Trask level jump, I'm going to push back on that a little bit. I hope he can grow, absolutely, and improve, absolutely. But I don't know if a Kyle Trask level jump is
like, can he take
realistic?
Maybe that's not the right word, but and I would say maybe I don't know about Jaden Daniels type of jump, but like, which is also huge. But like, you have the continuity. Can you take a jump? Because the thing going into 2020 with Kyle Trask, it was like, okay, he was good and he was a revelation coming out. So it's like, can he just be a little bit better? And he turned out to be a lot better. I think we were all very impressed. This thing,
yeah,
we were biased. We knew he'd be good, but like, we were very impressed. And it's the things like, oh, what's the ceiling of this? Can you get really good? That's the thing I'm most excited about. I think if we lose a game because the special teams coordinator thing again, I swear.
I that's my biggest concern too. Just to wrap up that point,
you're never gonna see me again.
To wrap up that point, like I agree. I think for me, it's not so much that Billy isn't good at calling plays, isn't good at designing an offense. It's the please take stuff off your plate. Even Mullen had an offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Now, granted, it was Brian Johnson who ended up being the offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. So clearly he's good at something, but still, like,
But and that's the thing too, is that to wrap up is like, I think what Billy Napier has done this offseason, he is doubling down on trusting his evaluations and trusting his process. And so far that process has not yielded results, but I think that this is the first season where I'm really going to feel like those results can be judged accurately and fairly. The thing is, like, it's year 3. So I think he's making a bet. We will see if it works out. There's a world where the offense is so good and the defense is good enough that the special teams coordinator thing doesn't become an issue because you're not constantly in tight situations.
Right.
And I don't know if that is good process, but the thing is, I heard a thing from Josh Pate on the Pate show the other day where it was just like, Florida doesn't have a great perception outside of, but like he said he went to Florida and Florida was one of those, like, they felt like Georgia and Alabama and that the process, like, they are good internally. They know what they're doing. They're doing all the right things. It just hasn't gotten to that level yet. They haven't got people in yet. It's just taking time because they're rebuilding. And those two teams haven't had to rebuild. Look,
no, I agree.
I hope that that's true. And this will be a bet that his process will win and it's that his process is winning out. We just haven't seen the results yet. I hope he's right.
Yeah. No one hopes he's right more than me. I want to emphasize.
And me second.
And you second. You have been with me the whole time. So I think the last big complaint we wrote down was losing Trevor Etienne. That's
sucks. No way to slice it.
And to Georgia, which oof.
That was also the highest I remember when it was coming out that like the rumors that he was going to transfer, and it was like he's either going to Ohio State or Georgia, and I'm like, it's going to tell me. It's one of those things where I was like, this is a really high variance answer, because honestly, I'm not going to care if he goes to Ohio State. I'm like, it's going to suck. Yeah. But like I'm angry that he went to Georgia. Yeah. And I think it was. I don't.
Would you say it gives you road rage? Thank you. Thank you, Liz. Thank you. Thank you. If you know, you know. If you know, you know.
My favorite thing on college football.
The cops know. That's for sure.
All right, let me know. I ain't ever driving over the speed limit in Athens if I'm ever there.
I'm not driving in Athens. You don't know when one of those cars is going to come out of nowhere. What are you talking about?
I've been told that
I got hit by. I got hit by a Cadillac. Oh, I wonder who it was.
I'm not driving after dark.
No.
It's like
Not at
werewolf rules.
Werewolf rules, yeah. But it's tough.
So-
I'm with you. It's tough, man. And especially a player, and I know it hurts you
Like
and
one of
other Florida Gator, Jacksonville Jaguar fans because you're also rooting for his brother and like who was
which I will
was,
not stop doing. And the moment he
yeah.
gets to the NFL, I'm gonna try and forgive it all. But
I
I'm gonna
forgive,
said
maybe
try. I'm not
maybe not forget, but
never. Well,
maybe not. I don't want to say never forget, but
I think the thing is, and I don't think these players should do anything based off what the fans want because fans are fanatics. But it was one of those things where Trevor Etienne also tweeted something along the lines of like, "Why aren't you happy for me if I'm going to a better situation?" And I'm like, "That's the most
because you're going to Georgia. What kind of dumb question is that?
It's
it's truly." What kind of dumb question is that?
That is the most tone deaf thing I've heard, and we've lived in Trump's America.
Like, oh my gosh.
Like that's the most. It was like
Ron DeSantis is my governor. You don't have to say much to me. Like,
just like
Lord.
It's impressive you have that amount of running back vision, considering how blind you appear to be.
Dude, insanity.
Like going to Ohio State, I'm like, I get that you want to be a part of a championship team. Like, I don't really understand leaving Florida.
I hate that phrase is true. That just hurts.
I know.
I'm not saying it's not true. I know it's true.
It's not that we're not a championship caliber program. It's like, but you only get 3 to 5 years in college. Like, and Trevor Etienne's hopefully got in for only 3. So, that being said, we keep Montreal Johnson. My dad have a conversation with my dad.
Montreal Hive, we up. Montreal Hive, we up.
I had a conversation with my dad about this, and he actually gave me good insight. Because I was so mad, and I was expecting him to be furious, and he's like, "Yeah, it sucks, but I mean, we recruit good running backs. Like
that is a position.
I said there's like this is legitimately the most replaceable position on this team.
Yeah,
like he's a playmaker."
I mean, going back to
like,
Emmitt Smith,
good running backs.
You can track down like high level college football running back talent going all the way back to Emmitt Smith. Truly, you really truly can. So
it's not. It's like also like Billy. Like it's also like the ones we have on the roster. Like Billy Napier has recruited good running backs, and like
speaking of Billy Napier,
so that really. Yeah.
Let's pick ourselves up after talking about a good running back going to Georgia. Let's talk about the good things that have happened. Bringing in Ron Roberts to co-DC with what's his name, Austin Armstrong. Tyler, why did you put that there? Because that was not something that I put in the rundown and I didn't think of. And before we started recording, you mentioned it and you wrote it down. Why did you feel like this is a praise? Why are you giving Billy Napier praise for bringing in someone else to co-DC with Austin Armstrong?
Because as much as I give him stuff about the entire reason for doing the offensive coordinator, special teams coordinator hires that I wanted was because he was like diagnosing an area where they can improve. And is like improve by bringing someone else in and not doing it. And this was a situation where he's like, okay, I'm not going to like, you trust in your process, but it's a matter of, okay, you can bring in Austin Armstrong's mentor to co-DC with him. Austin Armstrong, who is very, very young. And that could be another thing. I think I like a lot what I see from him. He is a young defensive coordinator. He does not have the experience that Ron Roberts has. So you have a guy who's respected in the SEC, who you have a previous relationship with. And
for those that don't know, Ron Roberts has been coached multiple different spots, most notably Auburn last year. He was at Baylor before that. And he was Billy Napier's defensive coordinator in, I think, 2018-19, which I believe is the year that they won 11 games and they won the conference and kind of dominated the entire conference. So just so people know, there's a familiarity there, which Austin Armstrong was on that staff as a young analyst coach, whatever that was.
It's one of those things where like you are looking at your team and making moves to attempt to improve. And it's true. Sometimes the best improvement is just to stay the course of what you're doing. But this is one of those things where like you're afforded a unique opportunity to improve and not blow up anything. You're adding a expert defensive mind who has a relationship with your current defensive coordinator, is his mentor like previously. So like the brain trust stays the same. The ideas, you get an influx of additional ideas and experience. Like I don't see, unless he tries like a what was it, like Kevin Steele level coup, which I don't think is going to happen.
I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't see how this can be a negative, because
Mhm.
like it's one of the few criticisms you can have of Austin Armstrong is that he's not experienced. Like he just has not done this. He's
Yeah.
not been a full-time defense coordinator as much as you would think. It was an
He's like
up and coming.
33, 34. Like he's young.
So like you get more experience in the room while not really changing the system, not really like having to do new install. You just I just don't see a reason why it wouldn't be a good move.
I agree.
Like
No,
it's
I agree
unique.
with you. I just,
Yeah.
it wasn't something that I immediately thought of.
Yeah.
But I like it. I think you're
Yeah,
right. I think you're right.
It's the thing. It's like you addressed an area of need, and you made a hire to get better at it.
Yeah.
Where I gave him flack for not doing that when, in my opinion, with all the stuff that's on his plate, I have to give him credit here where he's taken stuff off Austin Armstrong's plate. He's like, because people forget this with like when you bring in new people to your organization, it's not just like their skill, you're bringing in their ideas, and that in any situation what they could bring to it.
Right.
So you have another mind in the room. It's not just like the years of experience. It's not like a video game. It's like it's about people, and I think it's good. So credit to him.
I'm with you. And then one of the other things we have for praise is the evaluation, of Graham Mertz and the transfer portal. We obviously took a chunk of time to let Billy Napier know that we apologize for not believing in him with Graham Mertz. But like you said, that evaluation I think is very important and spot on. But I think it's indicative of how good he's been in the transfer portal. Yeah. Osiris Torrance was the first guy that he got, and was literally could not have had an offense without him in Napier's first season.
No.
You know, we talk about Ricky Pearsall was a transfer. Countless players Montrell Johnson was a transfer. A lot of players along the offensive line, also a couple have transferred in. Graham Mertz.
We got an offensive lineman from USC. We've gotten 2 wide receivers this offseason, one pre-spring and one now in the summer.
Another one from Arizona State.
Yeah, we got Shamir DK, who is a former Wisconsin teammate of Graham Mertz. You're bringing in a receiver, has some form of
familiarity
with him. And Elijah Badger from Arizona State, who Ricky Pearsall recruited to come to Florida.
Yes. Which is a great sign. And
it's also a thing where it's like Billy Napier, I watched an interview of his where he talked about the transfer portal. He talked about like, we got to have a strategy to it. Like, I'm paraphrasing here. He's just like, you obviously want to take the closer to the line of scrimmage, the earlier you want to get them in. You don't want to be taking offensive line, defensive line, linebackers in the spring. Like, in the summer. Like, you want to be taking those in the fall. Whereas like in the summer, you'd be like, okay, in that new transfer portal window, you could probably look for some wide receivers because it's easier to get them up to speed and things like that. And I was like, that was so, maybe that's obvious to people who are in the coaching game. But to me, I was like, okay, there's like thought in this. It's not just like, oh, who's in the portal? Can we get good players? Like, he's got strategy. Like he, and obviously there is an element of like, you can only take who you can get. Like, but
right.
But I think he has shown to be a good evaluator of the transfer portal and a generally good evaluator of talent in general. I mean, like we've said it a million times. Like, we did not expect anything of Graham Mertz. We wanted Grayson McCall. Like, and if Grayson McCall had transferred, I think that still would have been like a good. But he trusted his priors, put him in a better situation. And Graham Mertz looked different than he had every game of his Wisconsin tenure except for the first one. And so there's no reason to think that like that seems to be the track record. That doesn't seem to be a mistake. So I have to give him praise. Like,
I'm with you. It's
way
of high quality
now.
And it's high quality players, you know, like it's players that are doing well. Now, losing people like Princely, who was a tough one because he was probably one of the bright spots of that defense this past year. And he goes in the conference to Ole Miss. But there's players that are coming in, like Jameer Grimsley is a former 4-star corner at Alabama that's coming in, right? You got Asia Turner, a senior safety that was a big part of Washington's national title run. You know, like there's players that are going in. There's a lot coming out as well. But I just think that it's, you know, addition by subtraction. Like, is anyone really, no offense to this player, but is anyone really frustrated that Jaden Hill is no longer on the Florida Gators? Truly. I know friend of the pod, oh my gosh, what did we call him now?
What is his nickname? Bucks fan, because they're getting a good deal on the Baker Mayfield.
Tax break Bucks fan, Tyler Renfro. Okay, I like that one. We'll go with that for this year. Tax break. I don't know. It's too wordy in the front. We'll workshop it. We'll workshop it. Commissioner of the fantasy football league. Commissioner of the fantasy league, Tyler Renfro. How about that?
Yeah.
But I think Tyler, the biggest one, and I think the sign of, I just think the fact that he is targeting a certain type of player, a certain type of person, is the fact that Cormani McClain, which was the subject of a lot of controversy recruiting wise.
Totally forgot about him.
Former number 1 player in the country at the high school level, ended up signing with Colorado and Deion Sanders, is transferring to Florida, has enrolled at Florida. But Tyler, did you know that he's not on scholarship? He is a preferred walk-on simply because most programs in Florida specifically are on a scholarship limit already, and there isn't a scholarship for him. But he is so bought in and is so willing to come back and realizes, seems like he probably should have been there in the first place. It seems like it seems that way. I don't want to speak for him, but he's coming back and he is going to pay his way through at least a couple semesters, the summer and the fall, and is going to be a part of the team. He could potentially be the starting cornerback against Miami week 1. Like, and this guy is a preferred walk-on. I think that says a lot to the evaluation and it's been just straight hits for Billy Napier in the transfer portal. And I think that is a big thing because, like you said, college football, that is the way of college football going forward. The way that you have, you know, you're going to have attrition every year. You're going to have additions every year, but can you maintain the identity of your team by working recruiting at the high school level, and also by working the portal properly, right? It's just like, as someone who works in sports data, it's just like sports data, right? When you lean on the analytics, when you use analytics, need to be a tool and not a crutch, right? They need to be something that you use as part of your evaluation and as part of your assessment and way of looking at the game. But if you solely depend on them, you're not going to do well. Just like if you solely depend on the eye test, you're not going to do well either. You have to find a balance. And what Billy Napier has shown is that he is recruiting high schools at a high level, and he is able to supplement that recruiting, which needs to be your meat and potatoes, with that additional side of the transfer portal, knowing when to use it. So for me, I think that, and this leads into what one of my final praises, Tyler, and I didn't write this down, but what you were saying, that what Pate said, what Josh Pate said. Billy Napier could get fired after this season. Could be a complete reality. And I am so confident that the person who, in this hypothetical situation, that the person who replaces him is going to be successful, and it will be because of the groundwork that Billy Napier laid here. Everyone made fun of the Polos.
I 100% actually believe in that. I think it's entirely possible. I hope it's not, but it is entirely possible that Billy Napier may end up being a sacrificial lamb for success.
Yeah. And this is something that I carry in my life as a life philosophy. And everyone feel free to steal this if you want it. But like, doing the right thing is planting the seeds of trees that you will not enjoy the shade of. You plant the tree and you water it and you nurture it and you let it grow to become this big monstrosity and this big thing. You will never sit in the shade and enjoy the fruits of that labor. That's what doing the right thing is. And I think Billy Napier is a good coach because he is doing those right things in terms of program building behind the scenes. You said it, that it runs, Josh Pate said it, that it runs like an Alabama. It runs like a Georgia. It is tip-top shape. It runs like an Ohio State. We don't have the results yet to supplement it, but that's what that opportunity is. So that's why the opportunity is so good right now, right? I personally see this tough schedule as a good thing, right? And we'll talk about 2024 in a second, but it's going to be tough, but if you can deliver on this tough schedule, if you can exceed expectations and you have the support of all of the foundation you built, you can't build a house on a faulty foundation. You have to have that foundation. And I think that is the most important thing Billy Napier has done for this Florida program. And that's why no matter what happens this season, whether he gets fired halfway through, whether he gets fired at the end of the season, whether he stays hired and it's a status quo and he gets another year of, similar, we'll see what happens, or whether he blows it out of the park and everyone's like, oh my gosh, we were so sorry, Billy. We're so sorry. I don't care. I still think he will have done a good job as the steward of the Florida Gators football program. Maybe as the coach may not live up to the expectations, but as the steward of this program and ushering it into this new era, I think he was the perfect person that we could have gotten. We get on Scott Strickland for a lot of things, and rightfully so. Personally, I don't think this is one of those things that should be held against him, even if he gets fired.
That's my number one hesitation to firing him is that I'm like, I don't want Scott Strickland making the decision. So
that's another thing too. Exactly.
And that's a whole other thing.
Whole other conversation.
Yeah. I say real quick, I want to bring this up because it's been brought up on other shows as well. But the toughness of Florida's 2024 schedule. Now, it's hard to predict, and we probably will in just a second, as kind of our last thing. It's hard to predict because we don't even really know what this team is truly going to be like. The defense could be drastically different than it was last year. We know the offense will be good, but how good?
New personnel.
We don't know. There's an existing course where we trust the offense to be at least at the level it was last year. Like I trust them pretty implicitly. But if the defense is just a little bit more improved, that could mean a lot of wins. It could be a lot more improved. We don't know. I truly, even as people close to the program, we don't know. However, you look at the schedule, I don't think it's as tough as people make it out to be because it's a helmet schedule. It is a tough helmet schedule. But there's always that thing where I'm like, do we know that these teams are going to be good? We know Georgia is going to be good, and we know Texas is going to be good. But
I'm so glad you asked that question, Tyler. I'm so glad you asked that question. Do you want to take a guess as to how many AP ranked teams we have on the schedule out of 12 right now for 2024?
I'm looking at the schedule, but I don't see rankings on it. So
I have it with rankings. That's why I'm asking.
7
more.
8
9.
Whoa.
The 9 teams that are currently ranked, but to your point, Tyler, this could definitely change, and personally I think it will definitely change. Miami's ranked 24th in the country at the moment. Texas A&M is 25th. Tennessee is 16. Kentucky is 23rd. Georgia's number 1. Texas is 4. LSU 12. Ole Miss is 6. And FSU is 15. I don't think it's going to stay that way.
No, it never does.
It never does. But I would like for, the attention to be just as much if the Gators do end up having a successful season on the field, because there's been a lot of talk about how it's one of the hardest schedules ever, and it is a difficult schedule. But
it sucks that it's basically just the reverse of it next year.
Literally,
SEC taking the lazy way out. I'm shocked.
Of course, they are. But anything else you want to say about 2023, and we will wrap up by playing the schedule game.
No, I think we've dwelt on it long enough. Like I said, frustrating, glimmers of hope. Graham Mertz being chief among them, but there are things there's bits here and there that make me go, it could just be the growing pains.
Mm-hmm. So then I'm
holding on to that hope.
Let me ask you a question then. Can you describe to me in one sentence how you feel about the program where we stand June 11th, 2024, before we do the schedule game?
One sentence?
Yeah. One sentence. I can give you mine.
You give me yours first.
Mine is anxiously optimistic, but unfortunately realistic.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. I'm very anxious and I'm very optimistic because I do think that this next season could be a special one, but I am realistic as well. And I do see the amount of difficulty that our schedule presents to us. So that's mine.
Mine is a pivotal moment that I'm extremely curious about.
Hmm.
Like I'm hopeful for sure, but it's
Mhm.
one of those things was like this is a huge moment in this program. I honestly believe it. Like
I agree.
I think this offseason, what happens this season, on top of it just being, his job, but
Mhm.
that could affect a lot of things.
Yep.
But, but yeah, so pivotal moment. I'm really curious. Like I'm, going into last season, it was kind of like, all right, we're not gonna be that good this season. I'm gonna watch all the games, but
Yeah.
this season, I'm like, even if we're not supposed to be good due to the general consensus, I'm really interested in this season.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in watching this team, like more than
Me
I
too.
was this point last season.
I think there's a lot more question marks in a good way. Like, what's the offense, the skill position players? How's that going to look? Who's going to get the touches that ETN was getting? Defensively, how are these new players coming in? How are they going to gel? The Armstrong support, I guess, with Rob. Let's see how. I'm curious. I'm just curious. Is DJ Lagway going to see any playing time? What's the pressure going to be on Graham Mertz if he's not performing to start the season? Are people going to be calling for DJ Lagway even if he may or may not be ready? I don't know if he will be. I don't know if he won't be, but all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
What I would say real quick is that I hope it's just the Tebow role for him this
Same.
year. I really do.
Same.
Because and maybe some spot duty in bigger in like some of the cupcakes, of which we have one. And
Literally one
those days
opportunity.
those days everybody criticized us for that Spurriers type scheduling where
Yep.
we always those are gone.
Season
And
didn't start till October under Spurrier.
no, it's because I don't want to, and this is weird that I'm bringing this up again. I don't want to Felipe Franks this. I don't want to break this quarterback's confidence if you put him out there when he's not ready.
Agreed.
And all these guys are super confident, but the wear and tear matters. So it's not like this is not an Arch Manning situation. Graham Mertz is gone next year. Like there's nothing. Yeah. Quinn Ewers technically has 2 more years of eligibility.
Yeah,
and
but
I don't think
he's gone next year too. He's gone
Yeah.
next year too.
But it's like there's no question. Graham Mertz literally cannot stay in college football after this year unless he gets out for the full year medical redshirt, and then DJ was playing anyway.
Exactly.
So I think
Right.
I think it's okay to be patient. I think I just want the Tebow role because he does provide the mobility that Graham Mertz does not.
Mm-hmm.
So that is my hope. I really hope they're patient with it.
I agree. Tyler, let's we've been talking for a long time on these Gators. Let's wrap it up with the schedule game. Let's play it. All right. 3:30 Eastern. I'm sorry I'm laughing, but what is the schedule?
I have anxiety thinking about this.
What is this schedule? Who did Scott Strickland? You will answer for your war crimes. What are you doing? Oh my God. Well, we start the season against Miami at home, at least 3:30 Eastern in the Swamp. Freshman, drink water, eat something, hydrate before this game. It is your first Gator game. It is an August 31st, 3:30 Eastern, and you get a banger of a game. That's one thing too, though.
My first one as a student was New Mexico State. So
my first one as a student was, I forgot the school, but it was a cupcake and it got rained out. So
I was there for that game.
You were there for that game that year before, when you were seeing it. Yeah. All right, Miami, 3:30 Eastern, August 31st at home. We both got the Gators, right?
I got the Gators.
Let me put it this way. We just spent an hour and 45 minutes. I have no idea how much time is on right now, but we spent a lot of time talking about the Gators. A lot of it critical about last year. Nothing was more embarrassing than Mario Cristobal deciding that he didn't need to kneel the ball. So if I'm going to take Billy Napier against that guy, and we're at home, I'm going to take Billy Napier. I have more confidence.
Yeah, at home, 3:30 in the Swamp.
Mm-hmm. He may not have an offensive coordinator, but he'll kneel the ball. That's for sure. All right. That's for sure. Godfrey was from Split Zone Duo was saying this might be an anxiety bowl, and this might be like the first ever week 1 anxiety bowl between 2 programs.
It is
the Hurricanes ain't doing too hot. So
it is hilarious that my major criticism for Billy Napier can largely be lobbied to Mario Cristobal as well, and I don't think very highly of him. But he's a great recruiter. I'm just interested to see how they're. So he's because I have there's continuity with our offense that. And my thing is that Cam Ward was good at Washington State in a way. Like Cam Ward it's the Will Levis thing to me of like you are a player, you're like a bit of a player in that like you got things that you do well, and they do those things. Like I don't
you're not really inspiring confidence in me because Will Levis beat us. So
that's Mark Stoops thing. That's
true. That is true.
I'm not. I don't give Will Levis credit for that.
You mean the man who should have been hired as Miami's coach?
So we don't have to deal with him anymore.
Well, I mean, technically, we still will deal with him, but like,
for
in a different way.
It doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter. The other thing is like, it's not. I don't think Cam Ward is like a great NFL prospect necessarily, but he's got things that he does well. Like he's kind of KJ Jefferson-y a little bit. Not quite as big, but not quite as big. I just have flashbacks. He does a lot of according to PFF, he has a lot of turnover-worthy plays, so that might be good for us. Even though this defense last year from Florida was not good at generating turnovers. Anyway,
I'm not going to comment on PFF data, but I will continue.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
We'll not comment on PFF data. But we both have Miami.
Forgot that's the thing. We both have the Gators because
we both have the Gators. I was looking at the
I think the continuity that Florida does have is going to be the factor here. I feel like this could be the Utah game and I won't give this much analysis for most of the games. This could be their Utah game where their offense gets a lot better, but it's their first game against not a cupcake. It's one of those things where like if you watch the Gator offense in the Utah game, you're like, this sucks. And they were great, but they were fine by the end of the year. But like you gotta get into it, And
I don't think that this result will be indicative of both teams.
Week one results are almost never indicative of the season.
Yeah, but you gotta win. But this one,
you gotta win.
What matters is the W.
Yeah, play. I mean, like play on field kind of thing. But the W's do matter.
Exactly. Yes.
So Gators is one.
All right.
I'm writing this down. I'll keep that.
You got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Samford 2-0.
2-0.
And it's a night game, so freshman, you get to
you don't have to hydrate as much, but
exactly. But still hydrate, please. All right. September 14th. This is a massive day in my life. September 14th will be Alexa's birthday. It will be UFC 30 something, but it'll be from the Sphere. It'll be in Vegas from the Sphere, so that's crazy. Mo and my friends are going to go to the fight. Like they're going to Vegas for it. Yeah. I had to turn it down because it's Alexa's birthday. I'm not going to not be here for Alexa's birthday. So and then we got Texas A&M at home. Tyler, I'm going to be real with you. I am so confident in this game. I really think we're going to win. This is not because I don't think that Dan Enos is a good coach. I think he's a fantastic coach.
Mike Elko, by the way.
Mike Elko. I said Dan Eno. My wires got crossed. I think Mike Elko is a fantastic coach. And we saw what he did with Duke and all of these things. But I don't think they have the personnel to be able to compete with the personnel that we have at this moment. This is the first time that I'm looking at a team that's supposed to be either equal or better than us roster-wise because of all the resources. And I can say the end of the Jimbo era really messed up Texas A&M. Like the last 2-3 years really set them back, in my opinion. And so not to say that I don't think that they're going to have a good year, not to think that I don't think they're going to be better than they were in the years past, but third week of the season, September 14th, a home game in the Swamp. Let me
332.
Huh?
What I will say about this is that
go ahead. I'm looking something up real quick.
I think the Aggies have a good quarterback in Connor Wigman, who didn't play much last year, but he was good when he did.
Mm-hmm.
I think they had a good quarterback. I don't know how good the rest of the roster is.
Okay, this is the first.
I think Mike Elko was the right hire, but again, it's one of those things. Like I don't know if that would yield results. So I actually agree with you. I'm not as confident as you, but I agree with you that I think this is a win.
And it is also their first road game of the season.
Yeah.
And I think we saw it that year with Auburn when we went to that game in 2019. First road game of the season. It's going to be a 3:30 kickoff in the Swamp. It's already been announced. So for a lot of other reasons, I'm going to go with that. Maybe I was a bit too.
Yeah, for a team everybody, but for a team everybody doesn't have a lot of confidence in. We've got to look a lot of good kickoff times.
Yeah, we definitely do. So we'll go 3-0 for both of us there. Me a little bit more confident than you, but okay.
Yeah.
At Mississippi State, our first road game of the year. I mean, you have to win this game, just talent-wise, right?
Yeah, I mean, Jeff Lebby at Mississippi State will probably end up being able to put up points, but I don't even know their quarterback situation.
I don't even know most of their roster situation, to be honest. Also, Levy's never been a head coach before. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but it's definitely there's a lot of things he's going to have to deal with that he's never had to deal with before.
Do you think that do you think that Art Briles will be in the stands? You know, because he was.
I think that on September 28th we have an off week. And then moving forward, as I avoid that question, we both.
I'm passing you. I'm throwing pitches at you, and you're intentionally getting walked.
You're throwing grenades, and I am like, skirt, just trying to get him out of there. We then have a bye week, September 28th, and then we have the Sergio Anxiety Bowl. UCF at home, October 5th. Okay.
I'm going to be honest here.
Please do.
Do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first?
You can go first.
I'm going to be really honest here. And is only partially inspired by the fact that my sister graduated from UCF recently. So that's 2 from UCF. I think that they should win this game, but I think I'm going to chalk this one up as a loss. I feel like we're too squeaky clean. 4-0. I don't like.
If we're 4-0 going, if we're 4-0 going into that bye week before UCF,
I mean, we gotta feel good, but
yeah.
I mean, a lot of this hinges on the Miami game, but like at this point, based on the way we're playing it for that we're 4-0. I personally, I feel that I don't know if this team is going to go win 5 straight. I think. I mean, you do have the bye week to prepare for KJ Jefferson. That is a factor. And you know, it's Gus Malzahn who is Gus Malzahn. They gonna run the football. I don't know how good
J Jefferson.
Yeah. I
think
my
anxiety.
I think I have to. I'm gonna give this one to UCF. What do you feel? And that pains me so much to say. I don't want it. I want to rub it in my UCF friends' faces that we beat them. But I can't say I can predict that happening. What were you gonna say?
I think I'm leaning the same. What I was really thinking while we were talking there, this might be a bigger situation here, but I think we have to secure bowl eligibility before the Georgia game. I know that that's crazy.
Yeah.
But if we truly believe we're beating Miami, we're gonna win Sanford. That's 2-0 going into the A&M game. I think at home I think we can beat A&M, and I think we're a better team than Mississippi State roster wise. I just think talent wins on that one. So that I really believe 4-0 is on the table. Let's say 3-1 to be safe. Well, let's say the A&M or Miami, one of the two, we lose one of the two. I think we need to win this game for multiple reasons, personal and political and recruiting. And
I think I personally I have more writing on this game than any other. I'm not friends with a lot of Miami fans.
I agree.
I'm not friends with a lot of Georgia fans. Also, they're just better than us.
I will go as far to say as this is the biggest game of the season.
I really think it is. All the Florida State fans I know are I'm like cool with, but all the UCF fans I know will rub this in my face. Like
for years, decades, and for me, a lifetime. So, like, listen, and please, if I'm being very Sergio, you have a lot of attachment to people who are UCF fans and stuff like that. Like, please tell me. But like, I'm looking at the schedule, maybe the Miami game, but I also don't feel like putting the moniker of biggest game of the year for the week 1 game. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really think that.
To me, this is the one that has the most personal stakes for my life. I also have 2 sisters who went to UCF.
Exactly.
And like,
all right,
I would like the point, but back to the actual analysis. Yes. It's not so much that I think we may lose this game, even though I'm terrified for KJ Jefferson. It will be at night, which will be good for us. But it's that I don't know if I can believe in this team going 5-0. I feel like it catches up to them.
That's what I'm saying.
Based on what I feel. So
I think to be safe, we just go 4-1, and I think that one
4-1.
loss can come anywhere between Miami, A&M, or UCF.
But in this world, it's on UCF.
In this world, it's UCF. So 4-1.
Next up,
at Tennessee.
a lot of this is going to go ahead.
I said, are we applying the Josh Heupel principle here? Where a Josh Heupel team has gotten worse and worse every year that he's been at a program?
It's all about the question of how good is this Nico kid who's the true freshman? Is he...
Well, hold on. Let's rephrase that.
Which honestly,
how good is he going to be on October 12th?
It's a great question.
Because he will have a month and change. He'll have 6 to 7 weeks plus summer camp plus fall camp to really get into, because he's going to be the starter, right? Like he's starting as true freshman.
Yeah. Well, what I remember from him in the bowl game is that he's going against Iowa's defense, a tough task. He did not throw the ball very well, but he was very good on the ground.
Yes.
I think he did throw it a little bit. Like
he was smart.
I didn't watch the whole game. He played well. And it's like, it's hard to evaluate that because you're going up against one of the best defenses in the country, but that also has no offense. So that kind of does give you some breathing room as an offense. If you are not like, it's a dam breaking situation, not a like, we really drove it on them.
Right.
And it's a bowl game. And I don't know. It's his only game that we've seen of him.
Mm-hmm.
How good is he? I don't know. So far, Josh Heupel has only beaten Florida the Hendon Hooker year, and that was close.
Yeah.
I will allow, even though I personally have a lot of anxiety about this, I will allow the thought that the Austin Armstrong game plan could work again. You know,
it's not like
Heupel, he shut down Tennessee last time,
and it's not like Heupel has like a secondary tactical move. It really is a one-dimensional offense.
It is an execution-based offense, and the Hendon Hooker year they got good. They executed. Man, the things that could have happened if Hendon Hooker didn't go down.
That's true.
Even though Joe Milton did well, Joe Milton was very, had limitations. He's got that like Will Levis effect of like there are things that you are good at, but I think. You know what? This is gonna be the Spencer Rattler archetype of quarterback. Of like, there are things that you are good at.
There it is.
You're not good at everything.
That's why he's the best in the business, ladies and gentlemen. That's where it is.
I got there eventually. I will also. I think for analysis point of view, I will say that like, I think Florida has had good offensive game plans against Tennessee under Billy Napier. They had a good defense. Austin Armstrong had a good defensive game plan. I don't really count the Hendon Hooker year because that was Patrick Tony, but that game was close. You want to chalk up as a win?
I want to be safe and chalk it up as a loss because it is at Neyland as well. And
that's what I'm worried about.
And the only other road game we will have had up until this point in the season is at Mississippi State, a noon kickoff, so 11 a.m. local.
We're really getting into this.
And this is either a 3:30 or an 8 o'clock kick, or anywhere in between. So it's going to be
important to note, because we're getting into schedule situation. Tennessee will have played Chattanooga, NC State, Kent State, Oklahoma, a bye week, and then Arkansas right before us.
I'm going to chalk it up as a loss for the Gators.
Okay, it's a loss for the Gators.
I do. And that also kind of buys us a bit of insurance of if we lose against Miami or A&M kind of thing. So that archetypally, I'm just being honest here.
Yeah.
So that's 4-2, right?
4-2, correct. Kentucky at home, homecoming. 3:30 or 8 p.m. October 19th, Saturday. I can't pick this as a win. I'm sorry, I just can't do it. Like, convince me otherwise, but like we've lost 3 straight to them. And
if Billy loses this game, he's fired.
Yeah.
Like if the season goes the way we said it, right? If we go, let's even say we go 4-0 to start bye week, lost to UCF, lost to Tennessee. If he loses to Kentucky,
that's what we picked. So 4-2. If he goes 4-3 with the loss to Kentucky with the way that it's been trending,
it's done. With Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, and FSU still left, it's done.
Yeah. Do you want to, for the sake of weirdness, chalk it up as a win?
I don't even think for the sake of weirdness. I think we win the game.
Really?
This is gonna sound like it's in poor taste, but I promise you it's not. Do you remember that Kentucky offensive line coach that passed away 3 years ago.
Oh yeah.
I think one of the reasons I was so frustrated with the Florida defensive front last year was because I knew that offensive line was not the same. And it's unfortunate that this gentleman passed away, whose name is escaping me. It's just sad. I'm not even unfortunate. It's sad. I don't think that they let them push them around like that again, especially not at home. And I think that this game's going to end up being a night game.
I hope so.
I really believe it. I really do.
I can see the conviction in you, so we're gonna go with it. 5-2.
I do. Let's go 5-2 there.
We are going to. Then we have another bye week.
Let me pause real quick. We're entering what I'm going to call I think we need to psychologically, and
this is the same situation that we were in last year.
Well, until we see different results, that's where we're going to be.
Yeah.
That's where we're going to be, dude. And listen, I can break the season up into 3 chunks. The beginning, those first 4 games by week 1. I will say this. Yes, we got a horrendous schedule, very difficult, but at least the bye weeks are strategically placed. I do like
bye weeks are good for us. The bye weeks are
good for us. I think this is good too. I think Billy should approach, I mean, not me telling them what to do, but like I would approach this in 3 seasons. You got season number 1, Miami, Sanford, Texas A&M, Mississippi State. Season number 2, UCF, Tennessee, Kentucky. And then season number 3, the last 5 games of the year, a murderer's row that only includes 2 home games. So we're at 5-2, right?
Yep.
We can safely chalk up Georgia as a loss, but hope for a win, correct? Right?
Yes.
With me on that? Okay. 5-3.
Sorry.
You're good.
You got to just distracted.
At Texas on November 9th, noon kickoff, which is an 11 a.m. local. Like, what are they doing there? That is also an L, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. For Texas, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So 5-4.
Okay, so right? I do want to posit something because I've heard this. I think there really is a chance that in this stretch we upset one of these teams.
I agree.
Now let's continue the conversation. I don't think it's Georgia or Texas.
Neither do I. So we're at 5-4.
Okay.
LSU at home. Is this the upset?
So this is another situation where I have to ask, because we've been doing this, and I noticed this pattern that you and I have. We do this with LSU, and we lost like 4 or 5 straight to them. And it's always, they're always close, good games. We play them super close, and it's just they seem to always come out on top for reasons that are typically us making mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
The thing to look at LSU here, you're losing Jane Daniels and a lot of wide receiver talent. You still have a good amount of wide receiver talent. Like you said, you got a good offensive talent. You do have, I forget I think Garrett Nussmeier.
Yes. Yeah.
Our old offensive coordinator's son, who some people there's a sneaky thing to get odds for him as the future number 1 overall pick because we've only seen like a game of him, but it was pretty good. It was the Wisconsin game. So he looks promising. He looks promising. Defensively, atrocious last year. They bring in Missouri's old defensive coordinator. That will probably be good for them. How good are they? Like, how much is the personnel going to gel together? That's my question. If we look at their schedule real quick,
I got it pulled up here.
Oh yeah, what's the game they played before?
Right before us, they have Alabama at home.
Okay. All right. Okay, I'm gonna say this is the spot.
Okay.
Because I'm gonna say this is the spot because like I know it's not Nick Saban, but I want to believe in the Bama body bag. I don't think it's out of the program just yet.
I agree. I was gonna chalk it up as a loss, but I can be convinced otherwise.
Do you? You know what? I will say. I'm not. Let's keep it fair. And let's chalk it up as a loss because, like, we have not beaten them recently. Their offenses have been too good, and we keep doing this all the time. Yeah. With so that's let's put it up as a loss. That's 5-5.
I'm gonna tell you right now. I'm gonna tell you right now. We're beating Ole Miss at home, and we're beating Florida State in Doak.
That's why you wanted to do this.
Yep.
Wow.
I don't think Ole Miss is going to be as good as
last year.
As last year. Not that they won't be bad. Not that they'll be bad. I think they'll be not as good. You're gonna look me in my eyes and tell me that Florida State is going to be as good as they were last year?
I'm not. I was going to think that the upset was going to come at either LSU or Florida State if it happens.
I think we're beating Florida State.
Okay. So I'll at least get 6 wins in there for 6 and 5. But
and then the question is Ole Miss.
Now, I am of the belief that Ole Miss is not going to be as good. But Ole Miss keeps getting put into the right below the Penn State tier of
they're in that they'll have a home.
They're
in that home playoff game round, but win round 1, but maybe not anything else.
So that's the weird thing is I do absolutely believe in the capability to be a home playoff team type of team. Well, because that means you're missing out on the bye. You're not a championship team, conference championship team, but you're good enough to host the. I believe in that. That last year was their first 11-win season in the program. They lost Quinshon Judkins to Ohio State. Huge part of their offense. Jackson Dart is good. But I have continued to be. I think Lane Kiffin is a good coach. I think people overrate him a little bit.
I agree.
They really dipped into the transfer portal this year a lot, in my opinion.
They're that is my biggest take. I'm sorry for cutting you off, but they're portaling too much. It's not a sustainable, and this is now going to be the 3rd straight year where it's complete overhaul portal. I don't know if complete overhaul portal is the way to do every single season.
And to be fair, the Gators have not overhauled portal anything. They are additioning portal things.
Correct.
Which more and more as we get through this overhaul portaling is not as much of an issue. It's just more common. I do. You've kind of convinced me. I'm going to live on the optimist side.
But I will say this, as confident as much as I think we're going to beat Florida State, you got to remember LSU and Ole Miss are both at home. That swamp advantage in November is not a bad thing.
Yeah. And according to this is going to be a noon game, but
that's what I see here.
It will be senior day.
It will be senior day. Yep.
So, okay. I have something in your favor. I'm going to chalk this up as a win. You know why? Because they played Georgia the week before.
That's a body bag. That's a real
I don't know if we can put the Alabama body bag still because Nick Saban's not there, but we can put the Georgia.
We can put the Georgia body bag. I agree. So 7 and 5.
7 and 5. Does that say Billy's job?
It should, with the way we're talking about the schedule in June.
I think 7 and 5, if it plays out like this, will keep Billy's job.
So in this scenario, it's 7 and 5, starting off 4-0, but a loss to UCF and Tennessee.
Yeah,
Georgia and Texas, we expect we know that, right.
And a loss between LSU, Ole Miss, and Florida State in this. You're factoring in losing one of those,
which would be a great end to the season. If you lose one of those 3,
yeah.
But you lost to UCF and you lost to Tennessee. The only rivalry game that you would have won in this situation would be Kentucky and Florida State. Well, okay, Kentucky, Florida State, and LSU would. Well, let's say we lost to LSU.
We chalked that one.
We lost. That's right. So Florida State and Kentucky, but and Miami. That's actually a big deal. So the only one you lost was UCF in terms of rivalry or rivalry adjacent. We'll call it rivalry adjacent because I know a lot of people don't want to call
Georgia. You have to you can't.
Oh, dude, but that's buddy. That's
predestined. I know.
Come on, dude. What are we doing here? We're not there yet.
It's not just that Kirby Smart has built an empire and a dynasty. It's that on top of all of that, we know Steve Spurrier created this monster because Kirby Smart hates Florida more than any other team.
Kirby Smart is their Steve Spurrier.
He is the he's the reverse Spurrier.
Yes,
he's a defensive guy. He never beat Florida, I'm pretty sure, as a player, and now he's obsessed with it. And Spurrier couldn't beat Georgia as a player, and he became obsessed with it.
Yep.
Sports
are the best storytelling device.
I will say my last little bit on this season because I actually think that this is possible. I don't think this is out of the realm of possibility. I do think.
Okay.
If I had to bet money, I would bet we would go between 5 and 7 and 6 and 6 because
Okay.
This team has yet to show me that it can win those contested games. But I will say, on a 2-season trajectory, my friend Christian Dillahy, who's a Florida State fan, he told me once after Florida State, he was like, "You guys are on the same track that Norvell. It was like for Novella to be on, and it is the Bobby Bowden. There's the Bobby Bowden phrase. It's lose big, lose small, win small, win big.
Yep.
We've had a lose big. Well, lose big, lose a smaller season. We've had a lose small season, which like the whole thing is that we couldn't close on several games.
We could have easily been 8-3, 8-5 last year.
Yeah.
8-4. Sorry, my math.
I hope this is the win small year. It's not going to be a win big year. I'm realistic, but this very easily could be a lose small year. But I think it could, and it probably will be. But I'm hoping, and there is a chance it's a win small year, and that would be good. This could be his Neil Brown season where he saves his job.
And look, it could also be. We'll close with this because we've been going on over 2 hours now. We'll close with this. Yeah, I know it flew by. We'll close with this. If we go 6-6, but 3 of those wins are against Miami, UCF, and Florida State, how do you feel?
What that would mean?
That would mean Samford, which is 4, Mississippi State, I would say 5.
5, and then 1 of Kentucky or Tennessee.
1 of Kentucky, Tennessee, LSU, Ole Miss. But you want all your in-states, including starting and ending the season
in this situation,
and then in the middle with UCF.
In this situation, because you cap it off with a win against Florida State, I think that's I think 6-6 keeps his job. I think 7-5 keeps Billy Napier's job and their trajectory going forward. 7-5 or greater. 6-6, it just matters about how you get to that 6-6. And I think in that way, it does depend on who that extra win is against. If it's against Kentucky or Tennessee, good. If it's against LSU, Ole Miss,
no, to your point, it's about how you end.
Still be losing to,
But can we go another season not winning a game after the bye week before Georgia? Like, I know it's Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, FSU, but you can't go over.
Oh, you can't survive
again.
that. You cannot start 6-0 and go 6 and then
that's why
that would be the whole problem.
LSU, Ole Miss, FSU is the biggest stretch. It's the biggest stretch.
That would be the whole problem because it's very clear that the first 6 opponents are in a completely different tier than the last 6 opponents, which is an interesting way to do a schedule. And they didn't mean to do it; it just happened this way. But it's this thing of like the last 6 opponents are all way tougher than the previous 6 opponents, and and that would just confirm that you're not where you need to be.
Yeah.
So
which would be grounds for making a change.
I think I gotta be honest. I think if you go 5-7, I think Billy Napier. If he goes 5-7, I think Billy Napier does not have a job. After Thanksgiving, if he goes 6-6, I think he probably does. It just it matters a little bit on how.
7-5.
Anything greater than that, he's fine. Because anything greater than that would mean upsets. Like you just got to be realistic, you know.
I don't hate that either because it also implies and it also emphasizes. I just think it also emphasizes that the progress is there, and I think it backs it up with just how hard of a schedule people are saying, you know.
Yeah. So, and I don't think the schedule is as hard as it even feels right now. And me saying that doesn't make it feel different when I look at it.
It's the structure.
But it's the structure of the schedule. Because even if those teams aren't quote unquote good, they are all 6 of those teams are more talented than the previous 6 teams we will face.
Kentucky, Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, FSU to end the season with a bye week between Kentucky and Georgia.
Yeah.
Tough, man. Tough. I think you need to go at least 3-1 in the first 4 stretch. Take a week off. I think you need to go 2-1 in the second stretch. That would be 5 wins going into the Georgia game and that back stretch of 5 games. And I think, like you said, you got to win 1 and maybe 2, and I think you're good there. Please beat Miami and UCF. All right.
Oh God, could you imagine?
That wraps up our 2023 Florida Gators Post-Mortem with a little look ahead to 2024, little schedule dissection, Tyler, I think is what we went there. So, you know what? I would normally ask you if you have anything else you want to say, but we've been on this thing for 2 hours.
I have nothing else I can say.
I also have nothing else to say. I will say that this will be our last episode for a few weeks. I am going out of the country. This was a big episode. I think we're going to pick this back up in July, Tyler, when we can maybe start to have some preview episodes that maybe we start planning out. But this is a long pod. Exactly. Got to get us the athlon. I got to get it before I leave. I want to take that with me.
Me too. I got a flight.
I got to get that before. I got a flight to read. But yeah, we will be back in July. It's a long episode, so you got plenty of time. It's not time sensitive, obviously before the season, but regarding the 2024 stuff, but you can listen whenever you need. And yeah, Tyler, I guess all there's left to say is that this will, oh my gosh, dude, we've been going so long. I'm like, can I speak? Do I know what I'm doing? But yeah, Tyler, I'm just really excited. We'll be back in July and we will start doing some previews. I think, is that going to be the beginning of season 8? I think that will be the official beginning of season 8.
Oh yeah, this is a post-mortem, so this is the end. This is the end of season 7.
This is the end of season 7. Wow, look at us. Look at us.
Look at us.
Crazy.
Who would have thought? Me.
I actually legit would have thought.
I don't know why I act surprised, but it's like, wow, we've been doing this for several years. I think it's just the passage of time, not that we're still doing it.
Exactly. All right, my man. Love you. Thank you so much for being on here with me as always. Best co-host on earth. And yeah,
best co-host on earth.
Let us know what you think about our 2023 analysis and assessment, and what we think about a very early 2024 schedule look. But I think we went pretty in depth regarding, to talk about. I'm glad we did that and we took the time to do that. That was a good exercise. So, all right, my man. This has been another episode of Sideline Judgment. My name is Sergio.
My name is Tyler.
And we are not biased, Tyler, but Go Gators.
Go Gators.